Yo, what's up, chat? What's up? What is up? Friday. Happy Friday night, everybody. Shout out to you guys. Say what's up as you come in the chat. Show some love as you come in the chat. Say what's up. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the second live stream of the day where it's our nightly news. So I started this not too long ago, but it's something that I told you guys I would be consistent, diligent in, because at night we have a little bit of a different time. More fun, different type of news we can react to. Sorry, guys, you're going to hear my dogs. Because my wife let them in at the same time, but it's okay. But we got different news that we react to at this time, and different types of news. So different crowd at night, chill crowd. We got lots of different things that we could take a look at that during the day. I'm not gonna say I don't care if it offends anybody. I'm on more of a mission during the day, and at night I'm on the same type of mission, but it's more relaxed. So shout out to all you guys that stop by, chill with us, show love, show support. We appreciate you. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. Hope time was great with your family. I mean, we've been in the holiday season, but now we get ready for Christmas. So you guys know how it is. Get your pockets ready. Get your attitude ready. I can't stand the whole "'tis the season to be jolly" type of thing, because I truly think that that's something that should happen every single day. But you know, it's how it goes around Christmas time. So remember, this time is about first and foremost, the Lord, but it's also about family and friends. So make sure you utilize that time properly. I'm gonna show you guys some of the clips that we got ready to come in for tonight that we're gonna be looking at and reacting to. So just give me one moment to set up, guys. Change this angle. Change it a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys some of the clips that we got going on for tonight. Let's take a look at them. Student exposes. Alright, so you guys know I'm going to follow the title. So we follow the title first, and then we'll get into the regular news clips. So first up, let's go to the black student that exposed Myron Gaines. Those of you guys that don't know who Myron Gaines is, he is from Fresh and Fit Podcast. Super conservative guy. I really don't have I think he's worked for a couple of government entities. I think he's been with Homeland Security. I personally don't have a problem with Myron. I mean, people say that he does a lot of grifting. They don't like a lot of his views on women. They say he's kind of like a copycat. He's never really bothered me. I've listened to him throughout the years. But let's get into the black student exposing Myron.
With Thrivent, your personal finances start with you, but their impact can reach even further. This Christmas, your money can be a force for good for the people, causes, and communities you love. Thrivent, where money means more.
Through the historical reasons why.
All right, shout out to Young Don. You guys can go check out Young Don Reacts when you get a chance. He's a channel favorite. We react to Don over here often, so let's jump right into the clip.
Black guy finally gives Myron what he deserves. Video by O'Shea Duke Jackson. Love to see it based on the title. I already know I'm going to love this video. Let's run it.
Now, recently, he was at a college campus, and he was debating, in my opinion, a very, 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 very intelligent brother, a guy who stuck to the course. He didn't get into any kind of, ad hominem attacks. He stuck exactly to the code, and it was a pretty good back and forth. But I want you to hear what he had to say.
Let me ask you this then. If that racism is so bad, why is it that black people actually did better during the Jim Crow era? They had their own businesses. They were making more money. I'll tell you why, because the nuclear family. So when black people were the most oppressed.
That's incorrect. We spoke about that yesterday in the video, white fatigue. Even white people have white fatigue. We went through the historical reasons why the black community saw a decline in terms of financial stability post the 1960s.
And had the least rights and the least civil liberties, they actually did better than they do now. So, again,
Reconstruction. You're talking about
nothing can keep you back from success besides yourself.
So you're talking about Reconstruction, right? What happened to all the?
So I'm gonna actually go take a look at that. I know Young Don and Antonio Talks. They both did videos on white fatigue. So I actually want to take a look at what's that about. I don't completely disagree with Myron Gaines here as far as the nuclear family when it comes to black people. I mean, that definitely is one reason why they were doing better. But I get it. If you look at one of the first comments on the video, it talks about just because black people did better during Jim Crow, it doesn't mean that, that they did better because they were being oppressed or something of that sort. No, I understand that, but it's almost like if you kind of look at the church the same way, the church has done great, especially through persecution. That's just been a historical fact. So I think that there's something there that Myron's saying, but I want to take a look at some of these white fatigue videos that they made, which we do have on the menu tonight. So let's jump back into the video.
Those successful businesses and things that were around during Jim Crow, they were destroyed, bro. They were destroyed, cousin. Our government or white racists, but that happened. You can't even lie. That's history, brother. That's history.
Again, choice and accountability.
So Myron is arguing here that blacks did better under Jim Crow than now. And it's an argument that I've used before, okay? But here is the problem with using this argument, is that when blacks did better under Jim Crow, they were also married, and people also show that. But what people don't understand is that 1 out of every 3 black American or African American at this particular time owned a home.
Right.
Black businesses in the 40s and 50s were even more flourishing than they were in the 60s. Now, there's a documentary here.
But even more importantly than that, the heart and soul of the black middle class in the 1950s and the 1960s was the factories, right? Blue collar America. And in the 1970s and 80s, those jobs were completely destroyed. They were shipped overseas. We saw a lot of factories closing down, and that's why we have all these pictures of thousands of black men marching for a very long time, right? Trying to advocate for some kind of reform with the government, some kind of change in society to give them a place of employment once again. This idea that you had a bunch of black successful people and then they passed a civil rights bill and then all the black people just wanted to smoke crack all day, not go to work and stop taking care of your kids is absolutely moronic and an idea you...
Well, from that perspective, Don makes a lot of sense because that's true. But that also affected white America as well, right? So I'm not saying that black America wasn't affected by this. Obviously, so probably more, if anything. But yeah, this is where we see the downfall of a lot of production plants in Detroit. We see it all over the United States when they started to ship jobs, across the pond. So that was an issue for everybody. But I can see where they say that they don't. Maybe him and Antonio coming from the perspective that they don't believe it was just the nuclear family, or maybe they don't believe it played a huge role. They're saying that it was mainly the factories. That's their perspective, which I can respect that. I would definitely say it's both and. I think two things could be true at one time, right? So I would say it's probably the fact that the job market and the economy for the black family at that point in time was also a lot better, too, on top of the fact that the nuclear family was together. But let's keep watching.
You could only hold in your head if you were a racist white supremacist to think that black people were just doing so well and they're like, oh, let's just throw it all away. Let's stop getting married. Let's start smoking crack. Let's stop going to work. Let's close down all our businesses. That's not what happened, obviously. Then when you combine that with drugs becoming more available, being put into the communities by the CIA along with guns, well, you get a recipe for disaster. The reality is the divorce rate and the ability for couples to stay together, especially the nuclear family to stay together, it's
Opioid addiction gets between you and what you love. Once monthly supplement
directly linked to their ability to provide for themselves and their family. We see that the more a man makes, the lower the divorce rate goes, right? So the more educated you are and the more money you make, the lower your chances of divorce and separation are. So what do you think is going to happen naturally when black men lose their jobs, good paying jobs, especially for that point in time? I'll tell you what happens, exactly what we see happening in white America today. We see more and more white women starting families with men that don't marry them. We see more of the baby daddy problem happening in white America. Turns out when you're not able to feed yourself, much less a wife and children, going through the ceremony of marriage becomes far less of a priority. Myron is confusing the effect for the cause.
On YouTube called Inside the Negro Middle Class, and this was done in 1968. And in this particular video, you have blacks who acknowledge that the 40s and the 50s were even a stronger time for black businesses and most notably black wealth, right? That the predecessors were doing better. So what happens is this: if I have more businesses in my community, if I have more money in my community, even if I'm under Jim Crow, I have a wealth machine that I can distract from. Now, what the brother is saying is clearly the government stole that away, or at least he will in his argument. Haiti, the community there, he talks about Black Wall Street. So the government dismantled the wealth creation for the black community, all right? So you're talking about how blacks did better under Jim Crow, but you're not talking about how blacks lost their wealth because of the government, all right? And so instead of acknowledging what the guy is saying, Myron throws an insult and says, the government, right? Like making fun or mocking the guy, which you should never do in debate. He sticks to his argument of choice and accountability. This is debating in bad faith. If you're really debating, you should be fair and address his position. You don't want to address his position because if you do, clearly you will lose because you do know that he is correct. There's no way that conservatives can say that blacks did better under Jim Crow than today, but not address the fact that blacks had more businesses, more wealth. They weren't getting their business destroyed by the government at this time. Things like that. If you're not going to accept that, stop using that argument. And this guy, in my honest opinion, got the best.
Okay, you got the gift?
Yep, one bread maker re-gifted and ready to go. Hope your sister likes making sourdough.
Whatever.
Myron. But wait, there's more.
The 90s, we're just
Choice
a couple,
and accountability.
that was a little bit ago. We're
Choice
still
and
living in the
accountability.
party. Okay, so what you're saying, so the people in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they
Time there, he talks about Black Wall Street. So the government dismantled the wealth creation for the black community, all right? So you're talking about how blacks did better under Jim Crow, but you're not talking about how blacks lost their wealth because of the government, all right? And so instead of acknowledging what the guy is saying, Myron throws an insult and says, the government, right? Like making fun or mocking the guy, which you should never do in debate. He sticks to his argument of choice and accountability. This is debating in bad faith. If you're really debating,
as someone who's been on this side a couple of times and has actually seen these arguments, you don't see a lot of conservative people argue that, right? I would say you for sure don't see it on the white side of conservatism, but you don't see it on black conservative side either. That you will see, the black conservatives say, yes, the black family was better during the Jim Crow era for reasons that Antonio talks and Young Don speaks about, right? Like things like the nuclear family, things like the economy in general just being better. But they will not talk about the fact that most of the reason why black people lost their wealth is because of white America. That is very rarely talked about, right? Like we're not even going to talk about how much the Black Wall Street massacre was tried to be covered up and made to believe that it wasn't even a real thing that happened. I remember just looking at some of the news on that and thinking to myself, wow, why try to cover this up? I mean, like, surely this was like a mistake, or this was like some riots broke out, right? And then like all hell just broke loose, right? No, when you look into the history, that's actually not what happened. So it makes sense why they would try to cover it up. I just think that he makes a great point, and it's funny that he notices that. I'm sure most liberal people and most black liberals do notice that the black conservatives or the white conservatives, they never talk about how the people in America who are black lost their worth because of white America. That's very rarely talked about. And I think that's because it's not a popular stance if you're trying to be somebody on YouTube who wants to blow up, right? You're not going to see like any black conservative that wants to blow up. They're not going to talk about they're going to talk about very little to anything that white people have done to cause the black community strife in America, because then they lose their audience. So it makes sense, right? All right, let's keep watching.
You should be fair and address his position. You don't want to address his position because if you do, clearly you will lose because you do know that he is correct. There's no way that conservatives can say that blacks did better under Jim Crow than today, but not address the fact that blacks had more businesses, more wealth. They weren't getting their business destroyed by the government at this time. Things like that. If you're not going to accept that, stop using that argument. And this guy, in my honest opinion, got the better of Myron. But wait, there's more.
The 90s, we're just
Choice
a couple, that was a little bit ago. We're still living in the party. Okay, so what you're saying, so the people in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they chose for the Klan to come around. They chose for that. Is that what the fuck? You're talking about choice and responsibility, brother?
And I'm saying,
what responsibilities does the government have?
What I'm saying is, in the 60s, when they were actually successful, right, they were oppressed to the highest degree and they were still successful. So there's no excuse with racism being reeled back to not be successful.
No.
When they were actually successful
and come around. They chose the 90s
time, things like that. If you're not going to accept that, stop using that argument. And this guy, in my honest opinion, got the better of Myron. But wait, there's more.
The 90s, we're just a couple, that was a little bit ago. We're still living in the party. Okay, so what you're saying, so the people in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they chose for the Klan to come around.
Wait, wow. I don't think I heard that the first time. So as Myron said something about taking accountability, and then he's saying something about when women chose to divorce the man and marry the same sex. So he's trying to stick to the fact that the black community is not doing well only because of the nuclear family. And the student is trying to tell him, yeah, but where's the accountability on the government? What about the fact that, what about Black Wall Street? What about all of the things that black people were promised that they never got from the government or they never received? And Myron's just totally like dodging it. So this is not shocking to me, right? Like Myron is actually one of the people on YouTube that's most funny to me because so many people crash out about him and I don't know why. First of all, I'm like, dude, Myron's not black. He has a lot of melanin, great. But if you know his first and last name, everybody knows Myron's not black, at least the people who pay attention to him. So he's never offended me, right? He's a dark-skinned dude that's in America. In America, you're only going to be looked at one or two ways, black or white, right? So to people who don't pay attention to Myron that much, they probably think like he's a black dude or he's kind of mixed and he has some conservative views. And it's like, no, this is why if I see Myron talking a certain way about the black community, it actually does piss me off because I know that Myron's not black, right? Myron, like if you look at his background, he's Middle Eastern, he's something like that. And you can tell by his first and last name. And I don't like that because now in America, like you come over here and you're doing that grifting stuff, like because you kind of have enough melanin, you want to fall into like the black conservative, and now you think that you have some type of card or some right to be over here and diss every black person in America. That actually pisses me off. So this dude is actually making a really good point, and Myron's paying no attention to it at all. And I didn't catch that the first time I watched it. But he's like, where's the accountability of the government? Like, yeah, we saw the government try to cover up Black Wall Street. And what's Black Wall Street? We never heard of something like that. Really? Well, why were there planes over there, like flying over the sky? Where'd those planes come from? Was there a civil war in Tulsa that we didn't know about? Of course there was, but the government's never going to actually say that. So let's keep watching.
They chose for that. Is that what the fuck? You're talking about choice and responsibility, brother.
And I'm saying,
what responsibilities does the government have?
What I'm saying is, in the 60s, when they were actually successful, right, they were oppressed to the highest degree and they were still successful. So there's no excuse with racism being reeled back to not be successful.
No, they weren't.
When they were actually successful.
And come around. They chose for that. Is that what the fuck? You're talking about? So the people in Tulsa, the people in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they chose for the Klan to come around. They chose for that. Is that what the fuck? You're talking about choice and responsibility, brother.
And I'm saying,
what responsibilities does the government have?
What I'm saying is, in the 60s, when they were actually successful, right, they were oppressed to the highest degree and they were still successful. So there's no excuse with racism being reeled back to not be successful.
No, they weren't oppressed to the highest degree. The reality is that was probably the best time for Black Americans prior to, I would say, right here, right now. In a sense, even that's even debatable. I think you can make the argument, yes, for the individual, thanks to things like social media and the internet. For the individual, it's never been more attainable or realistic for a Black man to start off.
Get ready with me, credit card edition. First, I hit up Experian. They match me with new cards based on my FICO score.
Poor, thanks to things like social media and the internet. For the individual, it's never been more attainable or realistic for a Black man to start off poor and die a multimillionaire or even a billionaire, sure. But if we're talking about the collective, we're talking about the whole population as a whole, the opportunities that are available for the average person. Yeah, things were never better because of all of the abundance of well-paying blue-collar jobs that were accessible to Black people. That's why we saw such a strong Black middle class. In today's America, we do not have an abundance of blue-collar jobs, for instance, that you as an uneducated, low-skilled Black person can go and work and within a very short period of time start making enough money where you could be the sole breadwinner, and with that money purchase your own home and take care of your family. Also, we need to dispel the illusion, however, that this was available for everyone. You still had large portions of the Black community that were living in poverty. And that's because even though we did have more jobs like factory jobs that were available, there were still only so many to go around. And they were also restricted to, you have to literally live in that area.
That's what I'm saying. All these other things happen. Cool. Nobody cares. People need to put themselves in the bootstraps.
Maybe you need to start caring. Maybe people should start caring. Maybe we should have those conversations. Because if we don't take care of what happened and how people were left, like, taken away from their access.
See what I'm saying? And Myron Gaines says, all of these things that happened in the past, no one cares. Let me go back a little bit. This guy, he's hilarious to me.
Maybe you need to start caring. Maybe people should start caring.
Jobs like factory jobs that were available, there were still only so many to go around. And they were also restricted to, you have to literally live in that area.
That's what I'm saying. All these other things happen. Cool. Nobody cares. People need to put themselves in.
See, that's where it pisses me off. This is one of the things that throughout the time of me watching Myron, when he would say things like that, I'd be like, boom, right there. Like, he always eventually shows his hand. All of these things happen and nobody cares. You know, there's very few Black people that can learn about the history of Black Wall Street and they not care. That's why Young Don's like, nobody cares. Yeah, because Myron doesn't care, because Myron just tries to use the Black card when it works out for him. How does he try to use the Black card? Dude, he tries to come off like a Black conservative. He's clearly not white. Nobody thinks Myron is white. But he definitely does a great job at playing like the whole melanin guy that believes in conservatism. And it's like, dude, he shows his hand every single time. You're going to look at Black history in America. You're going to say, all of these things happen. Nobody cares. Dude, we already know people can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. If there's any race of people that's able to do this, like, we already know that Black people are able to do this off of very little. This is just something that's been done historically. I'm not saying that they're rich. We know that. The numbers talk about all of the races and cultures that are richer than Black people. Hence, one of them is the Asian race, right? And I can't stand when people say it. People are like, well, then why are the Asian race, why are they so much more richer than Black people if they're immigrants as well too? I'm like, dude, really? There's a freaking Chinese restaurant on every corner in a black neighborhood in America. You don't already know that? Like, dude, there's some black people that know how to use chopsticks before they can speak proper English. Like, let's be real. Like, I grew up in the hood, so I understand this. But when Myron does this kind of crap, this is what pisses me off about him.
On the bootstraps.
Maybe you need to start caring. Maybe people should start caring. Maybe we should have those conversations. Because if we don't take care of what happened and how people were left, like, taken away from their access to wealth, right? If we don't deal with those things, how are we going to move forward?
So again, we're going back to the whole idea of Myron sticking to choice and accountability.
Right.
Now, let me just say this. Choice and accountability is a part of the black issue, all right?
Sure.
It's a part of the black community's issue in America.
It's a part of yes, everybody makes choices. All groups of people have to make choices, and those choices will determine outcomes, right? But those choices can only be made within the confines of the plays that you have available on the board, right? If a certain play is not available to you, that's a choice that you can't make.
America, it's a part of the Pan-African plight with Africans and blacks in the diaspora and even Africa. However,
if you're watching this right now, I pray that you don't just scroll past. I hope that when your heart hears,
you don't
choices, and those choices will determine outcomes, right? But those choices can only be made within the confines of the plays that you have available on the board, right? If a certain play is not available to you, that's a choice that you can't make.
America, it's a part of the Pan-African plight with Africa,
right? And those choices will determine outcomes, right? But those choices can only be made within the confines of the plays that you have available on the board, right? If a certain play is not available to you, that's a choice that you can't make.
America, it's a part of the
I don't know if I agree with Don 100% on that, but I get what he's saying, right? There's been plenty of choices that I had to make, and some of them weren't at play for me, but I just knew that it was a decision I had to make, and I had to really go out and figure out how to, like, get things moving. Like, sometimes it wasn't available to me. Sometimes there might be something that I was looking for and I felt like the people around me didn't have it. I remember at one point in my life going on a real journey of, like, deepening the level of financial literacy I had. And at one point I felt like everybody around me just didn't have the depth that I was looking for. And it really started to drive me crazy. And I could have just settled. You know, I could have been like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to just keep watching YouTube videos and only talk to the people around me. But I stepped out and I started to talk. I started to talk to people that didn't look like me at all. And I did it on purpose because I just wanted to see the difference in how we thought about money. So yeah, my mentor at work, long-standing mentor, he's become a father to me. This is an older Caucasian man. And this guy has sat down with me for hours at a time, and we've talked about money for hours at a time. And I have a level of financial literacy that a lot of my friends around me don't have, but I choose to go out and get that. Now, they could do the same thing, but for them, I'm just gonna be honest with you, some of them aren't gonna do what I did. Some of them is pride, right? They're like, nah, I'm not gonna go sit with somebody that doesn't look like me and teach me about money. Well, they have the right to choose that, so I don't really harp on them about that. But it was a choice I made because that was a desire that I had, right? So I'm not gonna say that I agree with Don wholeheartedly there. Like, if you don't have the play, that you just can't make the decision. I think that you can. I think this is why earlier in my live stream I said that Ben Shapiro makes a good point about us having hard conversations with men. Sometimes you just have to allow young men and even older men to sit there and kind of allow them to figure out, like, how to maneuver around an issue or problem. And yes, we do it very differently than women, right? So cut us some slack. But at the same time, like, there's a real thing to be said here. I don't think that just because you can't see it doesn't mean you can't obtain it. I think there are people that are going to, you know, put boots to the ground and say, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And that was me when it came to things like financial literacy. So I'm not going to say I agree with Don 100% there, but I get where he's coming from.
An African plight with Africans and blacks in the diaspora and even Africa. However, you don't want to go back to the fact that blacks lost their wealth, all right?
Right.
Myron goes back to the fact that you can do well without racism, and that blacks need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. But the guy,
I wonder if that's what Myron would say to the farmers in Arkansas right now that are on the brink of bankruptcy. They predict that 1 in 3.
I Absolutely not, especially if they're white farmers. I bet you he wouldn't say it. This is something that I know about Myron for sure. He wouldn't say that to white farmers. And that's, I'm telling you, this is where this guy, like, he can get under my skin when he's doing things like that.
Small farmers who have been in that field, right, for generations. You have families that have been doing this farming shit for multiple generations. They're on the brink of bankruptcy now. And these are people that work from before the sun comes up to after the sun goes down. I wonder if Myron would say they're not working hard enough. I wonder if Myron would say that they need to pull themselves up by the bootstraps.
This week, President Trump is expected to announce billions of dollars in aid for the nation's farmers. Many are in financial crisis despite harvesting one of the largest crops in history.
Farmers are waiting to hear the details of what could be a financial lifeline as farm bankruptcies this year are surging.
I don't believe there'll be a profit this year. I think we will go backwards.
Ewalt learned the family business from his parents, who struggled but survived the 1980s farm crisis. He sees parallels.
The reality is that the way that the economy is structured, and that structuring, of course, is dictated by the decisions that the government makes, that literally dictates the ceiling for the population financially and economically. Right?
But you still want to debate based on choice and accountability when you just can't steal somebody's wealth and their opportunities for how they get wealth, because typically they've been, as a community, been ostracized.
Like, for instance, redlining. Through redlining, the American government drained what in today's money would amount to about $300 billion out of the black community, because through redlining, they devalued the homes that black people were living in. On top of the fact that they also made it pretty much impossible for black people to access certain loans to give them an opportunity to purchase a home, which is the foundation of building wealth in America and in this capitalistic structure. So how is it an effort thing? If the white guy who lives across the street from me, he is less responsible with his money, maybe even makes less money than me, if he is able to acquire a home loan to purchase a home in a nice, safe suburb, and I, as a black person who maybe has saved up a little bit more money, is a little bit more responsible with my money, maybe even makes a little bit more money than the other guy, and I'm not able to then purchase a home through the same avenues, how does that have anything to do with pulling myself up by my bootstraps? That's the reality that black people have had to endure in this country as a result of racist policies that were put in place by the government. And even after the Civil Rights Acts were passed, still we see studies being conducted that shows that black people are less likely to get qualified for business loans, for home loans, when compared to their white counterparts who have an identical financial portfolio. So
I'm glad Don is bringing up these statistics. A lot of this is talking to the point where I just talked about with you guys about me spending time with my mentor and learning the things that I learned. And he was an older man that happened to be outside of my race, right? Because he's not elderly. He's just older than me. He actually looks great for his age. Shout out to my mentor. But here's one thing that I'll sit and tell you guys. I've sat with him. And as a white, Caucasian, older male who was once liberal and he's pretty conservative now, I've said these things to him. Like the things that Don's saying right now, I've spit these facts out to him. And I'm like, man, this isn't fair. It's going to take me forever to do this. Black people, this and that. And over the years of me sitting with him, my thought process really has started to change, right? So now this is where you kind of get the term raccoon, because people are like, oh, Q, don't grift. Like, you're going over to that side and you're starting to not look at things like the way black people do. And it's like, no, I can't help but look at things like that, because that's just the life. That's just my lived experience. But what I learned from him was he would just say things to me like, well, Q, you just need more money in this area. Or, well, Q, you're just going to have to do this, or you're going to have to go this way. And what he really started to do was just dismantle all my excuses. And sometimes I was frustrated with him sometimes. Like, I'd be like, man, that's easy for you to say. Like, you don't deal with with this. So like, you don't have my lived experience. And the thing about him was that he didn't have the lived experience about being black, but he did grow up, and we know the term poor white, and he used this himself, right? He would say, listen, I would go to food pantries. I would have holes in my clothes, and I get it. Like he said, it might not be the black lived experience. He's like, but it's not the same experience of what you're thinking. And he's like, a lot of people look down on me. There were a lot of circles that I showed up in, and people made me feel like I didn't belong. This is a white Caucasian male. So we're sitting down and we're having these conversations, and it was through time where I realized, like, okay, maybe it is possible for me to get my 401k or my retirement accounts to this point. Maybe it is possible for me to be this invested in a retirement account or in a portfolio, even though no one's ever told me to go this high before. These things just started to become a possibility. So I'm glad that he's pulling these statistics up, because it does show a disparity. It shows a real disparity. I don't think pull yourself up by your bootstraps is always the remedy for that. I do think that it is education. I mean, that's a very powerful thing. I do think learning and figuring out like what someone else is doing that you don't already know or you're not doing, I think there's power in that. But it takes a lot of humility. And a lot of the times, if you're dealing with prideful people, they don't want to sit down and ask questions. They don't want to seem dumb. They don't want to feel like people are being condescending towards them. And I get all these things, but then it goes to the saying, closed mouths don't get fed, right? So let's keep watching.
Does that have to do with pulling yourself up by your bootstraps? It doesn't.
And again, you're only doing this because you're there to operate or to debate in bad faith. But wait, there's more.
Here's the problem. Blacks want to blame the government, not blame themselves. Oh, it's the government's fault. No, it's your fault for selling the drugs.
So the government has no responsibility. They have no fault, nothing bad. They didn't do anything bad. They're good. It's all great.
Dude, see, this is where Myron's annoying. Like, and he thinks he has the right to say this because he's so damn dark. He's so stupid and annoying. Like, no, it's your fault for selling drugs. It's like, shut up, Myron. Every black person is not doing that. That's not what the student's talking about. He's literally referring to things like race riots, times when the government took things from black people, times when things were forcefully taken, and that's what he's saying, so the government has no responsibility. But here comes Myron, right, because he's extra melanated, especially when he's in the shade, and he wants to say, black people want to blame the government. No, it's your fault for selling drugs. Myron, every black person doesn't sell drugs, you idiot. There's a reason why the student's asking you that question.
The government's always going to do dumb shit.
So we can't hold the government accountable.
Here's the thing. You can't depend on the government to save you. Like, just don't commit crimes.
You're wild. So the government, what utility does the government
depend on the government to save you?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Less than 1% of the entire black population is committing crimes. What are you talking about? Let's be generous. Let's call it 2%. Less than 2. So how do you then explain the poverty rate if only less than 2% of the black population at any point in time is committing crimes, right? And the kind of crimes he's talking about is selling drugs. Does Myron think that every black man...
Hey, bedtime soon.
And in the 19% of the black population at any point in time is committing crimes, right? And the kind of crimes he's talking about is selling drugs. Does Myron think that every black man in the 1980s and 90s was selling crack? Because that's what it sounds like. This guy truly is a fucking moron.
But okay, cool.
Yes, that's what Myron thinks. This is why he pisses me off, because as long as it's a day where he has where he feels like his melanin is like it's popping and it has him looking darker, like he could pass for like a black dude with some really good Indian hair, he says dumbness like this. Yes, Don, that's what I think he thinks, that's what every black man was doing around that time. He's ridiculous.
Oh, but why are they destroying us? They're not destroying you. So right now, how is the government holding you back from success right now?
I can't believe
How is the government holding you back from success right now?
If the question Myron is asking, how is the government stopping me from attaining a certain level of success? Well, as we've already acknowledged, on an individual level, anybody is capable of anything, right? Where there's a will, there's a way, right? Anything's possible through God who strengthens me, blah, blah, blah. We can find examples of a black president. We can find many examples of black billionaires. Sure. The real question is, has the government behaved in such a way that intentionally and selectively disadvantaged the black population in this country at any point in time? Obviously, we know that to be the case just off of slavery alone, but Jim Crow, redlining, the segregation, the list goes on and on, right? Well, now that we've identified that, has the government done anything to give restitution to the people that it intentionally and consciously targeted and hurt? The answer to that is no. That is immoral. That needs to be corrected. We have given reparations to the Japanese. We've given reparations to Jewish people. We've given reparations to Native Americans. We've even given reparations. The answer to that is no. That is immoral. That needs to be corrected. We have given reparations to the Japanese. We've given reparations to Jewish people. We've given reparations to Native Americans. We've even given reparations to the family members of 9/11 victims. We've given reparations to people who have been prisoners of war. Think about this. Other people committed violence against Americans of no fault of the American government, we could say, right? Like, take 9/11, unless you're a conspiracy theorist, right? But let's go with the narrative that 9/11 was a terrorist attack done by a foreign entity. That would be a situation where the American government holds more or less responsibility than, let's say, slavery, right? Or upholding Jim Crow laws, right? But yet, the American government felt compelled to give reparations to the family members of 9/11 victims. How do you make that make sense? So that's one way you could tackle this conversation. Another way you could tackle this conversation is the government prioritizing the betterment, not just of black people, but of all people in America? Who is being prioritized in this country? And when you take a look at how this economy is set up and how this economy is regulated, it is obvious that the billionaires, the elite, are those who are being prioritized. There is absolutely nothing stopping the American government from nationalizing telecommunications, from nationalizing education, right? We don't pay. Think about this. Everybody takes for granted that we don't pay for high school, right? It's just normal. It's natural. Like, well, of course you don't have to pay to go to high school. But then as soon as we get to the collegiate level, all of a sudden it's insane and impossible for the government to budget itself in such a way where it pays for college tuitions. And something that we should all be aware of is that it used to be possible to work a part-time job at some normal retail store and pay your way through college. You could go work all summer and save up enough money to pay for, your next year of college. The government has sat back and allowed these universities, these state universities, to turn into for-profit extreme.
Jimmy John's new toasted pizza sandwiches. 2 words. Cheese pull.
Bloated and overpriced scams, really, in a lot of ways, where they are doing some kind of nefarious thing with the banks. They know the bank.
Yeah, I think at this point, a lot of Americans look at higher learning as if it's some sort of scam. And not because we don't want to be educated, not because we don't believe in higher education, but more so because it seems like it's a debt trap. And that's exactly what it is. We get out of school and we owe all this money before we even have a job. And then it's like, once you start working your job, the first thing you're thinking about is, oh, I got to pay back my school loans. Yeah, there are a lot of people that agree with what he's saying right now. Even myself, as someone who literally has went to school, as someone who has literally went to grad school, it's been some of the most frustrating things that I've had to deal with paying for school in general. I've sat down plenty of times and said to myself, why can't the United States be better at this? I'm not saying college should be absolutely free. I get what Don is saying. Like, why can't they budget this in? They could do this all the way up until 12th grade. What happens when we get to college? So I totally get what he's saying there. I think that something needs to be rectified there. But it definitely feels like a scam, and that's why over time you've had less and less people actually attend college. Let's keep watching.
Are going to lend this guy who doesn't even have a job over the course of 4 years $140,000 to pay for his bachelor's degree. And so the university, they get to run up a big fucking check off all these student loans, and then the banks, well, they essentially get to tax you for the rest of your life off of interest on your student loans. The priority is not equipping the population with as much knowledge, education, and skill as possible to make each individual as valuable to society as possible. That should be the priority of universities, and they should aim to achieve that for as little cost to the individual as possible. But we see the complete reversal of that. The government has control over that. The government could pass policies to just dismantle that and change the way that we do things and make university free, just like high school.
I don't care about the 80s with the crack. No, I'm talking about right now. What race of people are the highest exonerated? What race of people are the highest of wrongful convictions? What race of people are statistically over-policed?
Okay, so let me tell you something. If Myron does not say African American people, this is my whole point of what I've been saying about him, about his stupid grifting, about his level of melanin he has. So he thinks he's like a black guy with Indian hair. He's like literally ridiculous. So I want to see how he's going to answer this, because I didn't get to watch this clip in its entirety. Some of it I watched and then I skipped and then watched and skipped. So I want to see how Myron's going to answer this.
Go on. What race of people are the highest of wrongful convictions? What race of people are statistically over-policed? Go on.
Well, who commits a disproportionate amount of violent crime in America?
Out of nowhere, because blacks want to blame the government. And
again, if black people are over-policed, meaning we have more people patrolling black neighborhoods, then you are going to capture more black crime than white crime. It's very simple. Black people and white people use drugs at the exact same rate. So why is it that we see a larger percentage of black people being represented in the prisons for drug use than we see white people? Because black and white people use drugs at the same rate, we should see something that is very close to our percentages of populations represented in the prison. So you should see about 60% of drug offenders in the prisons being white and about 12% of drug offenders in prisons being black. But instead, we see 30 to 40% of people in prison for drug-related offenses being black. This proves to us that black people are being over-policed. And so we can then extrapolate that to all the other forms of crime. Again, these statistics about who is more violent is based on arrests. It's not based on convictions. It's not based on who's actually committing the crimes. If a white man murders a woman in Oklahoma and buries her somewhere out into the woods, that woman gets reported as missing. It will not in any way affect the homicide rate. It will not in any way affect the amount of white people represented as violent criminals, because nobody's going to catch the guy and no one ever finds the girl's body. Contrast that with a black low-income community that has a lot of violence and police. Well, when you have cop cars constantly patrolling, everybody lives very close together. You can't do shit outside without somebody seeing it. Well, then obviously it's going to be a lot easier to catch a guy who commits a violent act of crime than it is to catch that guy living in the fucking Ozarks who kills that you know what I'm saying, that random white chick and throws her in the fucking lake. At most, someone notices the girl isn't around anymore and they report her as missing. So you can't look at the arrest statistics and come to an actual accurate conclusion of what population is committing more crime. But I think that's enough of listening to this joker fucking spout his racist bullshit and pandering to white supremacists. That's all it is. Myron doesn't have actual points. He just says things he knows that racist white people like to hear. And he thinks that he's actually making valid points when he's clearly not. But you let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. And on
shout out to Young Don. Yeah, Myron tends to do that a lot. And that's one of the things that drives me most crazy about him. I'm listening to how he's just not answering the guy's question about the government and when it comes to government and accountability. He's just totally avoiding it. And he does that pretty often. I mean, like I said, I don't have a personal problem with Myron, but it gets annoying when I see him doing that stuff. Like, and I'm like, dude, come on, man. Just because you have the level of melanin doesn't mean you can say some of the crap that you say. You're way out of pocket. So we're going to keep going with the clips. Let's just keep rolling. I got one more I want to play for you guys.
Don't just take classes, take charge. Start your comeback today at purdueglobal.edu.
no time? With Braun, you can still look legendary.
To keep it so 100, there's nothing worse than a raccoon. And to be honest, I have way more respect to a racist white person than I do a tap dancer. Officer Brandon Tatum, one of the biggest anti-black... To keep it so 100, there's nothing worse than a raccoon. And to be honest, I have way more respect to a racist white person than I do a tap dancer. Officer...
Bro, I feel so bad for Officer Tatum. I really do. Because he's been getting the brim of a lot of things lately. Here's the thing. When I saw him wearing this shirt, I think this is what took me out. This is where I was like, why does Brandon Tatum have this? Look at this shirt. Look at this shirt. A false ideology to create victimhood. That's what white privilege is. This is the shirt that Brandon Tatum is wearing. I'm like, dude, you can't make this type of stuff up. I think I was like, come on, Officer Tatum. I almost felt, before I had a lot of context to what they were doing, because now in hindsight, I'm able to understand it. I almost felt this way when I saw Candace Owens and Kanye with the White Lives Matter shirts. I remember at first seeing that and thinking to myself, what the hell is Candace Owens and Kanye West doing? Okay, I have context to that now. But when I see Brandon Tatum do this, I'm like, come on, BT. Like, we got to do better than this. We got to do better than that.
Brandon Tatum, one of the biggest anti-black channels on YouTube, and recently, rightfully so, he's been getting his Negro wake-up calls. Now, before I show y'all what exactly happened, I want to show you the way he thinks, because it's going to come back to bite him, okay?
Black people are far more racist than white people are. I know people don't like to hear you say that, but white people do not spend their days thinking about black people. And even if white people were to have an opinion about their daughter or somebody dating a black guy, they would not dare open their mouth to say anything about it. Black people don't hold back at all. In the comment section, you bump his toe, rub his toes, sell out, and dating a white woman.
For one, I could just see why he has such a big audience, bro. White people be eating his shit up.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's crazy because I've watched Brandon Tatum throughout the years, but it was probably within the last 3 to 4 years where I started being just a little bit more critical of BT. And I was like, come on, man, Officer Tatum. Now, for lots of reasons, he's always going to get my support to an extent, right? But there's just certain things I didn't like. And when he said that, I'm like, so if white people have an opinion about their daughter or somebody dating a black guy, they won't dare say it. I'm like, what kind of white people he been around? Because I know plenty of white people that are like, you better not bring that nigger home. I mean, with a hard R, they're not even holding back. Like they're literally like, you better not bring that nigger home. So literally, I'm thinking to myself like, wow, like he's really either he doesn't see it at all because he doesn't want to see it, or he just doesn't have these type of interactions. Like we could say that, but I mean that's kind of crazy to me.
Let's break down his first claim. Black people are more racist than white people. I'm about to say something controversial, you know? And if you feel like I'm wrong, I do not want y'all to be yes men. I don't think black people can be racist. Hear me out. Sad to say, but black people in America, we don't really have no power. We don't own shit. So, like, a black person being racist, like, you know, what are you going to do with that racism? On the other hand, white people that are racist, they can stop you from getting jobs. They own all the banks. They can, you know, probably freeze your money. They the judges, they the lawyers. They could put you in jail. So it's like, I'm not justifying when a black person is racist, but it's like, it's not holding any weight. And also, I've never seen a black person just be like, yeah, I don't like that white dude because of his skin color. It's never that. Now, his next point was that, you know, if you see an interracial couple, a black man with a white girl.
All right, so to what Antonio's saying, I've had these interactions. So 1 second, guys. I can literally see the white thing on the screen. Oh my god. Yeah, I've had these interactions before, and that's the thing about it. When he says that black people can't be racist, I've had these talks with people about this, and I say every time I've seen it. So I feel like we can be. I'll say that about my people, but here's why I feel like that. I've always told people that I feel like a lot of it is very fear based. Because all my interactions, when I've seen black people immediately react like this to white people, sometimes they've had an interaction with other white people, but sometimes it's just them kind of bracing themselves for the white person to just already be racist. Like a lot of the times that's what I've seen. That's my personal lived experience. So I can't say that that's every black person. Antonio might have something different. Young Don might have something different. I'm just saying for me, a lot of the times when I've seen black people come off like, to me, that they're being racist first, it's usually driven by fear. Like in their mind, they think that that person's already going to be racist towards them anyway. So they'll just be like effing cracker, and I'll be like, dude, that was unnecessary. Like the person's not paying you any mind. But they just already think, man, that white person hate me. Like that white boy can't stand us anyway. And I'm just like, you know, those have kind of been the things that I've seen, and I kind of have just stepped back and watched. But yeah, I can't say that I don't think black people in America can't be racist. I just think that it comes from a different place. I'm not saying it's justified. I just think a lot of the times it just comes from a certain type of fear that when they're about to interact with a certain type, I guess, white person, that they automatically expect, or maybe we could say most white people, that they just automatically expect them to be racist anyway towards them.
For example, black folks are going to be spewing negativity at the black man. It's actually the complete opposite. A woman posted a photo on Twitter. As you can see, it's a black man with a white woman. Now, the comment section is crazy, and it's hate from only one type of audience. Someone said you should be deported to Africa along with him. 11,000 likes. I've never seen someone so excited to kill their bloodline and become a single mom. 9,000 likes. This is the norm whenever they see interracial couples. The time that black people care is when you start downing the other race. Like, we don't care about you talking to a white woman, bro. Just don't talk about black women. That's all it is. Same opposite way. We don't care about you talking to a white man. Just don't talk about black men. And another point he said, white people do not spend their days, worrying about black people. That's false. Like we just seen, it was two white dudes that went onto an HBCU trying to debate. He could have went anywhere else, but he went to a predominantly black college. And not to mention, there are countless Instagram pages of people just walking around bothering black people or bringing us up for no reason.
Would you rather let in a million Africans into England or never watch a football game again?
I don't even want to let one African into the country. There's too many already.
Too many already?
Yeah.
So never watch football again?
I'll watch it on the TV.
On the TV? Okay, but you can't watch it on the TV.
I'll do without.
What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Do you think black people should pay reparations to white people for using up all the welfare and committing so much crime?
Y'all get the point. Like, this man has hundreds of videos just going around asking white people about black. Like, why y'all worried about us? Now, lately,
using up all the welfare. You know what was funny? Like, as the government was shut down and we saw all these people panicking over SNAP benefits and welfare and stuff, we learned, even though this information was out there for some time, I was not ignorant to this. We've learned that there are so many white people on welfare and using welfare. Like, there are so many, if not the same amount more than black people. And I'm just thinking to myself, do you think like, his question is so annoying that I'm stuttering. Do you think black people should pay reparations to white people for using up all the welfare? He's an idiot. Let's keep watching.
Officer Tatum's audience, they kind of been turning on him. For the past few months now, he has really been backing Israel. I'm not too in tune on the whole situation, but I will say this, free Palestine, and also free Congo too. People don't talk about Congo as much. They give, but either way, free Palestine. And I wasn't surprised by this, but Officer Tatum is like a very big advocate for Israel. Like, he thinks that Palestine is no oppressed, they're not getting killed over there, bro. And we all know he's getting paid. And if you're shocked by this, you're an idiot. Officer Tatum turned his back on black folks, and he's black. So what y'all thought was gonna happen? I'm pretty sure Israel offered him some money. He's like, yeah, of course I'm gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got no damn backbone. Twitter is where this whole debacle went down, man. And let me just show y'all. So Officer Tatum ended up making a tweet about how he supports Israel, and someone quote tweeted him. They said, "How much do you think Israel pays this?" Officer Tatum ended up replying, "Look at this racist. They hate Jews so much, they start going crazy and showing the true colors. Homeboy out here calling a black man a... What a coward." Look at Tatum. Tatum, I thought racism don't exist, man. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was victim. I thought it was victim mentality. You know, this is just so ironic, because it's like he's trying to call somebody racist when he's one of the biggest advocates of racism isn't real. You stop using your victim mindset. Now you're trying to call out racism. Hey, man, f*** you. Hey, I don't support what Jake Shields said, my guy, but I appreciate him for putting him in his place. So the Jake dude ended up replying, "I'm not racist against blacks, but you're a textbook definition of a... You support genocide for... I don't even know how to pronounce that word. I'm not even going to say it. Hey, Jake!" Hey, Jake, you cool, white boy. You cool. I love this so much because it's racism isn't... I thought it was victim mentality, showing the true colors. Homeboy out here calling a black man a... What a coward. They hate Jews so much, they start going crazy and showing the true colors. Homeboy out here calling a black man a... What a coward. Look at Tatum. Tatum, I thought racism don't exist, man. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was victim. I thought it was victim mentality. This is just so ironic, because it's like he's trying to call somebody racist when he's one of the biggest advocates of racism isn't real. You stop using your victim mindset. Now you're trying to call out racism. Hey, man, f*** you. Hey, I don't support what Jake Shields said, my guy, but I appreciate him for putting him in his place. So the Jake dude ended up replying, "I'm not racist against blacks, but you're a textbook definition of a... You support genocide for... I don't even know how to pronounce that word. I'm not even going to say it. Hey, Jake!" Hey, Jake, you cool, white boy. You cool. I love this so much because it just shows you how fragile these grifters' audience is. The people that's watching them, they don't support them for real. They're only using them as an outlet. And in 2025, bro, these white folks, they can really say what they want to say now. They don't need the bootlickers and the top dancers. They do not need y'all anymore. They can say these things themselves. And the thing is, no one respects a top dancer. Yeah, you can say racist things for them, but at the end of the day, when they get what they actually want, you're not going to be a part of that. And yeah, you can go marry a white woman, your kids going to be mixed, and eventually they can go ahead and watch the black out by talking to another white person. That's them. It's not you. You still a... And this dude right here is not the only one to call him out. It's been a lot of people. Nick Fuentes. I don't like this dude. You know what I'm saying? He's openly racist as well. But he don't like top dancers either.
He goes, I don't take money from Israel. I don't take money. Oh, you do it for free then? Wow. Wow. Good boy. Good boy. Wow. Good job.
Hey, Nick. Awesome. I don't like you, Nick, but you funny, bruh. You funny.
I love the way Antonio said that. He said, "Hey, Nick, I don't like you." He said, "But you funny." I mean, and that's kind of like, I will say, I don't think about it like that. Like, Nick's a young guy. He says whatever he wants. I look at him like he's like 26, I think, or 27. He's gonna, like, dude, like, you know how much stuff I said at that age that right now I would not say. So it doesn't bother me that Nick is like that. I use some of his commentary because sometimes I just like the way that he says certain things, and that's why when Antonio says, "I don't like you, but you funny," I thought that was hilarious. But look at the way he refers, and that's Nick reacting to something that Officer Tatum does. in reference to Israel. They're saying that he's getting paid of some sorts by Israel AIPAC, and that's what he's saying. Officer Tatum said he doesn't get paid by them, and Nick Fuentes is like, oh, so the stuff that you're doing it for free, and that's where the whole like good job, and then he's like good boy. So that's where that whole thing comes from, because I watched that clip in its entirety. Let's keep watching.
Give you that, bro. I'm gonna do a video on that nigga's but
Ossifer, please, I can't breathe. Ossifer. Good job, Ossifer Tatum. You do it for free. Good boy. He's shilling for Israel for free. Don't even need to get paid.
There's no respect on either side. And listen, what I love to say with these raccoons, bro, you pick the side, stay on your side. You see the side don't even really rock with you. You can't come back to the black side. So what are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? It's like they love being the little hip dogs to these racist white men. You know what I'm saying? They want to stand up to everybody but a white man. And I'm going to say this time and time again. He went, Officer Tatum, I don't even want to call you an officer. Tatum, you went crying racism when you should have checked the white boy. You should have checked his ass. You know what I'm saying? You want to get violent and all that, talk about. Check that white man. This is what I'm talking about. And I say this all the time. These red pill conservative, alpha, whatever. These niggas have no backbone when it comes to a white man. And that's systematic. This is what they did during slavery. And any black person that tap dance, you get no respect from you. You get no respect from either side, man. I'm glad this nigga got his wake up call. He deserved it, bro. And it's going to continue. They're going to continue to get the wake up call. Nobody likes to tap dance, man. That's it for this video, though, man. I don't got nothing else to talk about, man. If y'all want to see something similar to this, man, go check out my main channel.
All right, so that was Antonio talks on reference to him being honest about how he respects a man coming out being blatantly racist towards him rather than somebody that's tap dancing around it, right? I can say that I understand that. I don't like the whole smile in your face because like we're in corporate America, we should do that. Or it's like, dude, if you don't like me and you don't mess with me, it's fine. Like, you don't even have to talk to me. Like, I see people do it to other people all of the time. I'm one of those people. I really don't like fake people. So it's like, if you don't like me, I actually will respect you more. If you're like, yeah, bro, I just don't like you, I don't mess with you, so I'm gonna stay over here. I'm like, great. We see eye to eye. Perfect. I'm gonna do the same thing. All right, guys, let's keep rolling with the clips.
Shop Boss Gob's 3 huge days of Black Friday deals. Stock up on men's thermal crews and Henleys. Only $5.99.
Somali welfare queen Ilhan Omar called me out for...
All right, shout out to Brandon Lehman. Those of you guys that don't know him, check out his channel when you get a chance. I've been following Brandon for some time, so I'm like, man, he's at 549,000 subscribers, so shout out to Brandon Lehman. Check his channel out. Great commentary. Brandon does lean more on the conservative side of things, right? But I still think he captures commentary pretty fairly. So let's just take a look at some things Ilhan Omar said. And for those of you who don't know who she is a representative of Congress. She's a representative of Minnesota, and she is Somali. Those of you who have been following me since we go live every day to cover the news, we talked about TPS, temporary protective status, ending for all Somali refugees within the United States. That's something that actually Trump is putting into law very shortly if he hasn't already. So I want to take a look at some things Ilhan has said, because I think it was yesterday on the live stream. No, not yesterday, because that was Thanksgiving, the day before, where I was talking about how Ilhan has been problematic since she's been in Congress. Anyone who's familiar with Ilhan knows that she just says very problematic things. So I'm going to play a clip so you guys can see some of that. And I'm going to tell you that some of this is aiding to why TPS for Somalis in the U.S. are ending. So let's take a listen.
Exposing the massive and widespread... Somali welfare queen Ilhan Omar called me out for exposing the massive and widespread welfare fraud being perpetrated by the Somali community in Minnesota. The other day I made a video uncovering their latest $500 million fraud scheme that stole taxpayer money intended to help children with autism and funneled it to an Islamic terror group back in Somalia. This video already has over 1.5 million views, so I'll link it at the end if you haven't already seen it. But apparently Apparently, this video also reached Ilhan Omar because she held a press conference where she addressed the situation and didn't condemn the Somali community for continuously stealing taxpayer money, but instead condemned people like me for the great crime of reporting about their fraud. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's start with this crazy clip of Ilhan Omar saying the purpose of the United States government is to serve the interests of Somalia.
jawaabteedu waxay ahayd dowladda Mareykanka waxay ka qabanaysaa wixii anaga aan qabno dowladda Mareykanka qabo waa kalsoonidaas inaan isku qabno anaga Soomaali haddii aan nahay wadankan anaga ku nool wadankan wadankii aan anaga tax ka dhiibno waaye waa wadankii gabar idinka dhalatayne ee Congress-ka fadhiso intii aniga aan Congress joogo wadanka Soomaaliya biyaheeda dad kaleeta iyo badeeda dad kale ma qaadanayaan wadanka Mareykankana kuma taageerayo dad kaleeta in anaga ayna dhacaan marka taas ka seexda reer Minnesota gabadhii wadanka Mareykankana kuma taageerayo dad kaleeta in anaga ayna dhacaan marka taas ka seexda reer Minnesota.
She said, sleep in comfort, knowing that I protect the interests of Somalia within the U.S. system. This has been problematic. Now, this was something that Ilhan said some time ago, but I was aware of these comments when she said this, and I thought to myself, this is not the first time she's made a comment like that. This is where people have said, like, hey, she's infiltrated the U.S., she needs to be deported, we don't want her here. So temporary protective status for the Somalis now is basically up for grabs. Like, they're in danger of losing that status. And I know that now, because of the 2 guardsmen that were shot in D.C., the same thing is about to happen for Afghan refugees who are in the United States as well. So what do you guys think about it? You think it's fair? I mean, should all Somalis be losing TPS? When you have somebody like Ilhan, who is a representative of Congress, and she's saying things like that, now you have little rumors going around, and it's been for some time, guys. This is not something brand new. Like, oh, Ilhan's trying to start a mini Somalia in Minnesota, things like that. This is why President Trump is now like putting these types of groups of people, like putting a spotlight on them, because you have certain people that are doing things that he's like, hey, now we got to take a look at these people. I'm not saying because of what the shooter did in DC that every Afghan personnel in the United States should be under scrutiny, but I am saying that that's what's gonna happen, because literally it was a targeted offense. Now we're seeing the guy works with the CIA, and he had all of this access, and people are like, oh, I wonder who gave him permission to actually take the shot, right? Was this actually a setup? So when you see people like this gentleman, the Afghan gentleman who shot the 2 guardsmen in DC, and then you see Ilhan Omar making comments like this is why you see people with the, listen, we don't want to deal with this immigration stuff, like just get these people out of here, because you see some of them, and it's more like they are infiltrating the system, that they're not coming and assimilating. All right, let's keep watching.
gabadhii Congress-a u dirsateen way idinka warhaysaa sidaad idinka u dareemaysiin dantaas ay u dareemeen madaxweyne Xasan Sheekhna.
In every video I make covering Somali fraud in Minnesota, and there's a handful at this point, I always have a new clip of Ilhan Omar clearly, explicitly, openly, and proudly stating she represents the interests of Somalia. And my question is, at what point do we take her at her word and denaturalize this woman? Or at bare minimum, remove her from the United States House of Representatives? Ilhan Omar and the Somali community in Minnesota represents the single biggest mistake of our immigration policy over the last 80 years. We imported people from the third world into our country who don't want to be American, but want to live in America. I'm going to say it again. They don't want to be American, but they want to live in America. The same values and cultures that failed to build Somalia into a functioning nation are the same values and cultures white liberals in Minnesota encourage them to maintain. They want to be Somalian in every single aspect, but do so in the safety of Minnesota. And instead of integrating into our society and expecting our government to do what's best for its citizens, they expect the government government to represent their interests, which is the betterment of Somalia. But here's Ilhan freaking out about Donald Trump revoking temporary protective status for Somalis and vowing to engage in literal immigration fraud to protect them from deportation.
When the president tweets as if he has the authority to terminate temporary protected status for Somalis in Minnesota, even little kids in 8th grade know that that is not an authority that the president has and can wield. The other unlawful thing that our lawless president is claiming to do so is to terminate that status for only one state, which he has no authority to do so. So, for the 300 or so people that are impacted, that currently live in Minnesota and across the country, we see you and we stand with you and we will make sure even little kids in 8th grade know that that is not an authority that the president has and can wield. The other unlawful thing that our lawless president is claiming to do so is to terminate that status for only one state, which he has no authority to do so. So, for the 300 or so people that are impacted, that currently live in Minnesota and across the country, we see you and we stand with you and we will make sure we do everything that we can to help make sure that your status is adjusted before March of 2026. Because you know and I know that there is nothing temporary about people's lives here in the United States.
Look how offended she is that the President of the United States would dare to deport Somalis who are illegally here and engaging in massive welfare fraud back to Somalia, the place that they claim to love. It's because it is not in the best interest of Somalia to deport the people who are robbing American taxpayer money and sending it back to enrich Somalia. They will do whatever is best for Somalia, whether that's stealing $350 million of welfare funds for hungry children, $500 million meant to help children with autism, or in...
Now, Brandon's making a point here because he's spitting all the facts of things that have already been publicly put out there regarding Ilhan and things that have been fact-checked that she actually has been involved in. So that's the scary part. You know, you see her up there talking, and I even saw in the comments the other day, people are like, why is she saying things like, you know, the president has no right to do this? Like, she doesn't know what our president has the right to do. Well, there's some, I wouldn't say there's right there, there's influence there, right? When it comes to ending TPS, temporary protected status, it's not like President Trump can kind of just come up to the podium and say, all of you have to go home and get out, right? It really, the sole final decision rests on the Secretary of Homeland Security. That's where it rests. The president does have some influence, and in this situation, I would say he has great influence because we know who the Secretary of Homeland Security is, right? It's Kristi Noem, right? It's the same exact person that has went on the record plenty of times and went on the internet to tell people, listen, turn yourselves in, we'll help you go home. Go home and then come back the right way, right? So as far as TPS ending for the people that President Trump probably wants to end it for, I'm gonna say he has great influence when it comes to this because specifically who his Secretary of Homeland Security is. So let's keep watching.
Engaging in immigration fraud to make sure that their cash cow does not stop. Ilhan Omar married her own brother to circumvent immigration law. And she's offended that we look suspiciously upon people who break our laws to enter our country and then continue to break our laws by stealing money meant to help children and funnel it back to the place that they allegedly had to flee from. Oh yeah, how dare Donald Trump. She's only this openly entitled because, as she stated in the last clip, she believes the U.S. government exists to serve the benefits of Somalis in Minnesota on behalf of Somalia, the country. But in this next clip, she puts her foot in her mouth and accidentally exposes the entire scam for why Somalis pick to live in Minneapolis.
I know you guys are like slammed, but so if my friend and I could just.
But I want most Minnesotans to know this. Majority of us Somalis who are here, as my friend Ali said yesterday, most of us, this was not the first place we came when we came to the United States. But most of us chose Minnesota as our home because Minnesota is special to us. Minnesotans are special to us. When we moved from Arlington, Virginia and came here nearly 30 years ago, none of us decided to move to another state. My siblings and I and my dad, until he died, called Minnesota home. Because, like I said, Minnesota is special. And I know almost every single elected Somali Minnesotan did not start out in Minnesota, but chose to come here, stay here, start families here.
So instead of the Somali diaspora living sparsely across the United States, where they would be forced to integrate and assimilate into American society, they chose to congregate in Minneapolis so they could create an enclave that acts as a satellite state for the nation of Somalia, where they can amass political power and elect representatives like Ilhan Omar, who will do exactly what she admitted in the first clip: work from within the United States system for the betterment of Somalia, where they could engage in the same backward cultural behavior of corruption and piracy that led to Somalia being a failed state, and use their political leverage as a voting bloc to force local and state politicians to turn a blind eye to their massive fraud. In the last video I made, they have the police chief apologizing to the Somali community if they feel targeted by these fraud investigations, all while having a Somali translator. In the video I made before that, the mayor of Minneapolis is giving whole speeches in Somali. They have successfully weaponized white liberal guilt to force the acquiescence of their mission.
Now, this part I did think was crazy. He literally said that the mayor is giving whole speeches in Somali. You can't make this up. How is the mayor of Minnesota not giving a speech in English? Dude, if I find some footage of that, that's literally crazy work. I'm going to show it to you guys.
To benefit Somalia by any means necessary. So now if you want to win elections in Minneapolis or Minnesota, you need the Somali vote. And in order to get the Somali vote, you must vow to prioritize the interests of Somalia. Otherwise, they'll just install one of their own, like Ilhan Omar, who will do it. The latest mayoral race in Minneapolis was decided by leveraging a Somali clan war back in Somalia to split up the Somali vote in Minneapolis. You can't make this stuff up. Somali clan wars are deciding who the mayor of Minneapolis is. I truly believe in the exceptionalism of America. And because of that, I do believe that immigrants on an individual basis can integrate well into America, even from places like Somalia. But only if they're willing to completely repudiate the culture and customs from where they came and fully assimilate into the American way of life. They must be willing to become American at their core. But when 100,000 congregate into one city with the explicit intent on not assimilating and being encouraged not to assimilate by woke liberals who think that it's racist, we can't be surprised when the exact same things that made Somalia unlivable start happening here. It's the same problem with Dearborn, Michigan. You can't flee from a radical Islamic Sharia country.
See, and some people could be listening to Brandon and they could say, well, I think he's being overzealous. But the way that he's articulating it is that, listen, it's happening a little bit at a time. It's not like they're just kind of being aggressive about it or bombarding the state. It's a little bit at a time. Even Ilhan went on record to say every Somali that's there, they didn't start there. They all live somewhere else and they all chose to go there. So when Brandon's saying like they made this little enclave there to where they can kind of make a small satellite Somali, it's actually true. And this has been in the news for some time where this rhetoric has been going. So it's not like it's like a new, kind of rumor or anything. This is very true. They're not assimilating, right? You have Ilhan able to speak to them in her own language. You have that they have control over what mayor is being elected. Like this is so much like New York. It's scary to me. Now, I'm not going to say that Muslims put Zoran in office and made him mayor, but I am going to say that I know there was a very specific group of people that voted for Zoran Mamdani, because there are about 8.2 million people in New York, and he won the mayoral seat with only about 1.4, 1.5 million. I mean, essentially, because I'm from the state of New York, we could say that no one voted for him, but someone did, because he obviously got votes. But this is just crazy. It shows that it was definitely a younger people. It shows that it was definitely a certain type of people who are looking for the government to do something for them because of what he stands for, free, free, free. So we're seeing this in more than just one state happen. And I have seen Zoran in press conferences numerous amount of times where he's promoting Islam, and he's saying that Muslims in New York don't have to hide anymore, and he's bringing up events about remembering 9/11 when he was much younger and how his aunt didn't feel comfortable going out or riding the subway. I've seen him talk about all these things live, so we have to really be careful when we're looking at people who are coming to the United States and they're not assimilating, and on top of that, now we're making them government officials. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I definitely have seen the trend of it over the years. Let's keep watching.
And then set one up here in the heart of America. But here's where Ilhan says the problem intent on not assimilating must be willing to become American at their core. But when 100,000 congregate into one city with the explicit intent on not assimilating and being encouraged not to assimilate by woke liberals who think that it's racist, we can't be surprised when the exact same things that made Somalia unlivable start happening here. It's the same problem with Dearborn, Michigan. You can't flee from a radical Islamic Sharia country and then set one up here in the heart of America. But here's where Ilhan says the problem isn't the Somalis who are perpetually committing welfare fraud. I'm the problem for making it known that's what they're doing.
In this country, we do not blame the lawlessness of an individual on a whole community. Because if you believe in law and order, you understand that if a person commits a crime, they face justice. And that you don't put that crime on a whole community. What we also know is that there is not a single evidence that the president or his coonies have put forth that there are any single resource from taxpayers in Minnesota that has gone to aid and abet terrorism.
Now, why does she think she could say the president and his coonies? Because she's a representative of Congress. Bro, you're a representative of Congress and you're here in America. You don't say that about your president. Like, I don't. Now, you guys know that this is not me being biased. This has nothing to do with the fact that Ilhan is a... Sorry, guys, I got distracted. This has nothing to do with the fact that Ilhan is Somalian. You guys always hear me get on here and say I cannot stand when I watch Democrats or Republicans tear up our president, because I think when other countries are watching us do that, it makes us look weak, right? Why is a representative of Congress saying the president and his coonies? And on top of that, it's a Somalian representative. I don't like when an American representative does it. So this is just really irritating to me right now, but I digress.
That language is dangerous. That language puts the lives of Somalis not only in Minnesota, but across the country in danger. And if the president believed that, and he had evidence, he would take people to court. So we are sick and tired of the president waking up one day and deciding to put forth falsehoods and demonize whole communities, while the ignorant people that support him then take the lies that he's spreading and use it as a fact.
How am I spreading lies when the first clip I played in this video is of her saying she believes the Somali people can tell the United States government what to do, and that they dare not do anything that's against the best interests of Somalia? In the video I made a couple days ago, I showed a news clip from the early 2000s where Somali businesses in Minneapolis were raided by the FBI for funneling money to Al-Qaeda. And she says the entire Somali community shouldn't be demonized for the crimes of a few. Well, maybe the entire Somali community shouldn't be engaged in this widespread welfare fraud. In every instance, the entire Somali community participates and benefits. In this latest scandal, the entire Somali community was participating in creating fake autism claims for their children. And the parents that participated were given a kickback for every kid that they fraudulently signed up. You don't scam nearly $500 million by only a few people participating.
And guess who the parents were? Do you think any of the parents were Americans? No, they were all parents of the Somali children. For the most part, I think they had some mixture of races in there, but they weren't any American citizens from what I understand or what I've researched.
The entire Somali community participates because they all share the same goal as Ilhan Omar. That's why they cheer and applaud when she says she represents the interests of Somalia from within the United States government. And they all participate because that's what their culture promotes. And they know they can do it with impunity because they're protected by the mayor, by the police chief. The police chief basically apologized to the Somali community for the inconvenience of the federal government disrupting their scam. And that's why Donald Trump finally said enough is enough and cracked down on this problem. You don't see this kind of thing happening with Korean immigrants or Japanese immigrants or British immigrants or Canadian immigrants. It is from one group, from one country, living in one state. And they think they can just scream racism and everyone will be too scared to call them out for what they're obviously doing. But Ilhan continues to dig herself into a deeper grave by saying the Somalis aren't going anywhere because they're part of the fabric of this nation. Come back and move forward with Purdue Global at PurdueGlobal.edu.
Now this is just the sweetest wallet I've ever seen. GPS trackable, trigger in...
Take a look.
Somalis are not terrorizing this nation. We are helping it thrive.
Will be too scared to call them out for what they're obviously doing. But Ilhan continues to dig herself into a deeper grave by saying the Somalis aren't going anywhere because they're part of the fabric of this nation. Take a look.
Somalis are not terrorizing this nation. We are helping it thrive. Somalis have always seen themselves as the fabric of this nation. We have signed up to serve this country in its military. We have signed up to teach children. We have signed up to become nurses and doctors and engineers. We have signed up to be public servants and get elected into office. We don't do that because we hate this nation. We do that because we love this nation. We do that because we have deep gratitude to the Americans who have given us the opportunity to find a new home, to settle in that new home, to find new joys in that new home, to start families in that new home, and to call that new home our own.
I actually believe her that she does love this country, but not because of the refuge and opportunities that it afforded to her, but because we're a prosperous, high-trust society, and they can take advantage of that and easily steal obscene amounts of money and send it back to Somalia. That's why they love America. And yeah, Ilhan, the same people who are incapable of building their home nation into anything meaningful are the true backbone of America. America just runs runs on Somali ingenuity. Somalia has been in constant survival mode for thousands of years, and their culture was molded around this perpetual fight for survival. And they prioritize violence, piracy, and corruption as means for survival. So when they come to the United States, a place of abundance and generosity, where we have a culture that was molded around abundance and generosity, they come here and look at us like we're ripe for the taking. It would be offensive to their personal constitution and culture to not rob the United States. Because to them, it's like stealing candy from a baby, and it's exactly what they would do back in Somalia. They don't see themselves as American, so they have no respect for programs that are meant to help Americans, even American kids. They want to steal what they can from the United States and send it back to Somalia, the place they consider their true home. So when things inevitably crumble here and the well is tapped dry, they'll just go back to Somalia, and hopefully all the money they stole and funneled over the years will have made it a better place for them to live. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel.
I think it's so crazy. You guys, his name's Brandon Lehman. Go check out his channel if you get a chance. Shout out to Brandon. Been watching him for some time. His channel's doing great. Like I said, he leans on the more whiter side of conservatism, but like he's not radical right. But Brandon is I think he does a great job at his commentary. I've been watching him for some time. It's just crazy to see how he puts that when he's like, you know, they're gonna funnel in enough money and hopefully they'll make, you know, this place better for them and it'll turn into the kind of place that they want it to be. And it's just like, dude, what part of that is assimilation? Like that's insane just to hear him break it down like that. But I just wanted you guys to see that because throughout the years I've said it. I've said there's been a lot of problematic things that Ilhan Omar has said. And people have really been in an uproar about President Trump talking about ending TPS for Somali refugees that are here in America. But there's a lot of things that she said, and I think she's aided to a lot of it. I think a lot of things that she says is problematic. And it's been like that for some time, and now I think it's just catching up with her. And then the 2 guardsmen being shot in D.C. and that being done by an Afghan refugee, that doesn't help either. So I know TPS for any of the Afghan refugees in the United States is going to be looked at as well. We know that ultimately the decision is up to the Secretary of Homeland Security, but I don't know. Kristi Noem is very much on President Trump's side, so we'll just see how this all plays out. Let's go to the next clip, guys. Did I play first? I did play Myron first. What was the next one?
Take the next step in treating your moderate to severe ulcerative colitis with Entyvio, the only gut.
Something outside of like.
All right, so shout out to God Behind Bars. They did a great thing. Look at Mike. Look at Simba. He wants to be in the camera, babe. You see him? Shout out to God Behind Bars. They did a great thing. They covered a daddy-daughter dance of a couple of gentlemen who were picked. They were picked for a program that was started. I think it was 29 of them. And they hosted a daddy-daughter dance for men who are in prison, and they get a chance to spend time with their daughters in a different atmosphere other than just visitation. I thought it was super sweet. It was super special the way that they covered it. It really is heart-touching, man. So we're going to take some time to take a look at this because we look at a lot of negative things. News is always like that. It moves fast and it moves negative for the most part. But there are some really good things that are captured. And this is one thing I wanted us to take a look at. So let's take a look.
My first time giving my daughter flowers, be the first man to give her flowers. Let her know I love you, you're my angel, you're my firstborn. Daddy's always got your back.
She's 17 and I've been gone 50 years. She's everything. She's my world, man. I ever put my life on the line for my daughter, man.
Hey, this moment right here today, soak it in. I pray that we get many more of these moments, but we don't know how many we have. They're my world. They're me everything. The reason I keep going every day in this place. The reason I fight to get out of here. It won't make up for the past time, but heaven our future.
every single event in my little girl's life. I mean, missed her first steps, her first words. When she was younger, I love you, Daddy, is something that I rarely or hardly ever heard. Missing all of that affected me, but it affected most was her. And to have this day, be able to share this moment together, it's going to be magical. I just want her to feel the love and just have a good time and smile.
But it's going to be a memory that we can hold on for life, man.
The last time I saw Sabrina was probably 7 years ago. So definitely be a beautiful reunion.
It means that I'll be able to see my daughter and actually share an experience with her. And I get to, really just have a conversation one-on-one with her. She's my world. I have two. They're my world. They mean everything to me. They're the reason I keep going. They're the reason, I push to be a better person, to learn, to grow.
What I love about my daughters is I love the spirit, the energetic, like to play, like to dance, they like to have fun. This is gonna be something outside of like a prison visit. So it's gonna be an experience that you feel like we together outside.
Man, y'all gotta get ready. Tuxedo looks fly, I gotta look fly. I hadn't seen my daughter since she was 6 months old. So she's 17 now. So she finally gets to spend time with Dad. And I'm gonna spoil her, let her know. Man, I missed so much time with you. I ain't missing another minute.
Man, shout out to Angola State Prison for this experiment they did. So this was one of the first ones they did. Daddy daughter dance, and I think it's just great. Like I said, we always gonna cover crazy bad things on the news because that's just what media does, especially mainstream media. But when they cover something good, I want to always be one of the channels that capture that for us to watch, right? Because it seems like there's a plethora of bad, and we're always gonna find it. I'm like, man, he hasn't seen his daughter since she was 6 months old, and now she's 17, and that's heartbreaking. So I think this was such a special thing for them to do because outside of visitation, they get to share a moment. And I'm not saying in visitation you can't have moments, but this is just so special. Maybe they'll hear a song that, together they can always cherish it, like even though her dad's not there. Because shout out to all the dads out there that are good dads, right? I know those of you in the chat right now, or those of you watching, and you have a great relationship with your father. This is probably hitting home for you, or probably pulling on some heartstrings, simply because what it feels like to have a great dad, or a dad that really does have your back. And it's like he's like your rock. Like it feels like you could run through walls when this person encourages you. And I've told my mentor that he's made me feel like that. So shout out to him and all the great dads out there. Let's keep watching.
It's my first time putting on a tuxedo. Oh, it was nice. It was fire. So I felt real good. I feel professional. So I might need a box of tissue. I might cry here, especially seeing my baby.
In that room, you guys are going to have the opportunity to sit down. I mentioned the Bibles, right? You can write a note inside there, get your suit on, gather your thoughts, pray over the Bible if you want, or two in one session. So, in this case, I'm the dad. Okay, I'm on this side. And then so to your left. Yeah, to your left. So you put your arm out first, and then she'll put her arm. And she'll have her bouquet, right? And you can also, if you want to take her hand, or grab her, she didn't have her service. Yeah.
Do it say you feel like you about to go home. Feel good.
Vision's in front of him. We can put him on this side. Okay, so she's here.
If we work in tandem, there is no fight we cannot.
Vision's in front of him. We can put him on this side. Okay, so she's here.
feeling excellent, excited, pumped up. Yeah, I'm ready. Looking forward to be a great time, great moment, you know. Memories, bro. Memories that I can just hold on to for a lifetime and enjoy, you know.
We setting up everything, make sure everything's set up for tomorrow. Got our fresh flowers in, thanks to God behind bars. Got the decorations are amazing. Everything's amazing. We did a lot of decorating today. One of our dance. It's gonna be amazing.
What? I come over here and almost got tears in my eyes, I'm telling you. And I walked in, I was like, wow. That's all I could tell him is wow. It was awesome.
Being here. And we know where in the world we'll be right here. And right here, when you walk in, you feel free. And then when we're outside the black gate, and you're not walking outside that black gate unless you're going home. You know what I'm saying? So all of it, like, man, we free right now. I'm like, yeah.
God just gives us a taste of what's to come.
I love the gentleman in the background that said God is just giving us a taste of what's to come. You know, I knew that this would be an experiment that would produce hope. So it's just great to see the men, you know, feel like that. You know, one gentleman, he says, we don't really get to walk out that gate unless you're going home. So right now it feels like we're free. So they have that feeling of being free, and then they also have that time to spend with their daughter. Some of them, that's their only daughter or their first daughter or their firstborn child, period. So I just think this was just a great experiment. That's why I wanted you guys to watch. So let's keep going.
This is a blessing.
So what are your thoughts after trying on your Texas?
Oh, I feel like we just in here saying that we done had some good times in life, but it's more like the crowd going to be the best one. I never like this. I feel free right now. I feel I'm not in prison. This is just a chance to build memories and show love to my babies.
Tell me what you guys are feeling right now.
I'm emotional.
When's the last time you wore a suit? Or have you worn one? Never wore one.
I like this. I can use this. I can use this.
How you feel, guys?
It's like good money. Release date.
About what? Why? How you feeling, Brian?
Good.
Because this is the first time I get to hold my baby girl 10 years. Last time I did it was 5 years old. So this is a big moment.
I roll cool with my baby girl. Love you for infinity.
There's her daughter.
I'm just telling her my favorite scripture is 1 Corinthians 10:13, but I want her to start off by reading Philippians 4:13 because I believe she can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens us.
Today is our new beginning for our relationship with God. We're going to go on a journey together. Daddy, love you, Lariah.
Yeah, love you, see.
Shop Boss Dog's 3 huge days of Black Friday deals. Deck your halls with 50 to 75% off almost all trees, ornaments.
All right, so now we're at the part where there's been a lot of preparation. So now the guys are dressed. Like the guy said, I love it. They said, how do you feel? He said, I feel like new money. I love that answer. They're dressed, suited and booted. They got their hair done, haircuts, everything. So now they're lined up and they're waiting for their little girls to come. I thought it was great how they made, they decorated the entrance. They're not going to let it look like a prison because the kids are coming, even though on visitation days it does. But because this is a daddy-daughter dance, they really went out of their way to, decorate it, kind of make it look like a runway type of thing. Really made it look like a dance. So I just appreciate Angola Prison for doing this. Let's keep watching.
This is actually my first time putting the suit on, so I've never seen myself like this. I seen a man that I was supposed to see. It means a lot. It's a moment that I'll never forget. To bond with my daughter and create a memory. She means the world to me, more than the world. Words can even express.
Boy, I seen the girl said she was 6 years old, so it returned her heart. Said she's 16 now, gonna go to college. So this thing is very important to me. So for me, this was a blessing, man, that I needed, and I needed this time with my daughter. This is a picture of my daughter, my beautiful baby. I put this picture on my tablet because when I look at it, it gives me a reality check on what I have to do to get back to her, the things that I enjoy, the reason I love her, and just how wonderful it is to be a father. Just looking at her beautiful face. Very excited. I get to see my daughter. I ain't seen her in 3 years. This is my first time putting on the tux. Make me feel like a gentleman.
First time giving my daughter flowers. Be the first man to give her flowers. Let her know I love you. You're my angel. You're my firstborn. Daddy's always got your back.
really appreciate that they're just letting this be like a grand entrance and just like a normal entrance. You don't see a whole bunch of like guards around with guns. You know, you don't see the CEOs acting crazy. I really just appreciate this whole moment. So I'm just going to go a little bit forward so we can kind of see them in like, you know, the rhythm of the dance and having conversations and things like that.
Don't just take classes, take charge. Start your comeback today at purdueglobal.edu.
Diagnosed with Crohn's disease and struggling with your symptoms, it's not too soon to talk to your doctor about an...
That's my dancing with my autistic daughter and my 9-year-old daughter. My 9-year-old remember me since she was 3 years old. That could have been the best thing ever happened to me and him. God bless y'all and thank y'all. I love y'all.
I ain't crying like that. When I cried after walking to see the girl.
In a long time. I ain't shed tears like that in a long time. It's so for me to get that moment and not realize that I'm gonna break down like that from now on. It wasn't even about me. I just didn't see him. I hadn't seen him since 9 months. And that's when I had to see the moment after that moment. Because that's the realization that she never had a real, physically, until the night.
We had to turn around, man, to see my baby in that dress and she bust out crying, man. The baby just ain't no crying, man. I slouched. Man, the baby, they be slow dance and she crying again. I'm like, baby, why you crying? Shit like that. I'm trying to get a chance to dance with you. I'm telling the rest of my brother, like, look, brother, what you got? I said, she got this. This ain't doing right now. Ain't doing right now. I don't know.
Honestly, my daughter's 9 years old. I miss her. She was home. I still treat her like a baby. She ain't gonna go for it. But I'm pretty sure that I see so many guys how you interact with your daughters. It plays a major part in their lives at their age. I see the difference with mine. Though she loves me and everything like that, I still need that time with her to put more time in it. You guys really like encourage me to be more involved in life without those experiences. Thank you. Everybody has a chance to take part in this.
Man, shout out to Angola Prison. That was a really special experiment. I hope that they keep that going, and I hope that that's not just a one-time thing. From what I understand, it's happened at more than one prison. It's not very widespread yet, but I think it makes a great impact on the men. It makes a great impact on the daughters, and I just think shout out to them, man. Like, I think it's a super special thing. All right, guys, let's get back into some ratchet news. Here we go.
Black Friday is the best time to upgrade your sleep at Raymore Flanagan. Save big on top brands.
Cry for my wife. You see say could there?
All right, shout out to Young Don Reacts, channel favorite. We react to Don on the channel often. So here we're going to see Abba and his co-host reacting to something that Brandon Tatum specifically said about crying in front of his wife, right? Now, I'm not going to go off on BT about this, but I knew the internet was going to get him for this because it's comical, not only comical, but it's also classical and historical for this to happen right now with the age of the internet. For people to go back and get old clips and use that against somebody to try to make a point. So let's see why this happened to Officer Brandon Tatum. Let's take a look.
Bro, when Charlie died.
Why Charlie Kirk is my white daddy?
Okay, that's disrespectful. I need to hear that shit. Let me play it back.
Why Charlie Kirk is my white daddy?
Not no fucking gospel R&B singing, bro. Oh, that shit too tough.
Kirk, my daddy.
Officer Tatum calls us out over Charlie Kirk. Video by ABBA and Breach. Let's dive in.
Officer Tatum decided to do a response video sponsored by Israel Impact.
You know, it's fair game to criticize people.
It's fair game. We're internet people. I'm not going to sue nobody over fair criticisms.
For context, in case you aren't aware, we did a video in which we talked about
sue, nigga. You don't got no legal justification to sue anybody because they're giving their opinions.
Tatum. There was a viral video going around of him from a podcast 2 years ago where he said,
I would never cry for my wife.
Someone asked, what happens if your kid dies? He says, I would try not to cry in front of her. If I go to my father's funeral, I ain't crying. Also, sure enough, he found out Charlie got passed and turned on his live stream and decided to drop some tears for everybody.
Bro, you know that says something super fucked up about you if you believe you can't cry in front of your wife. Now, me, I've cried in front of my wife once when my first daughter was born. We had an issue that occurred, and she had to be immediately hospitalized. And it was literally within 24 hours of her being born. She's perfectly fine now, doing excellent in gymnastics. She's about to turn 4 in a few months. But when she was born, you know, a little situation happened. It was incredibly stressful. We hadn't slept for over 24 hours. And I was just really angry about what was going on. And I cried. It wasn't like sobbing or anything like that, but a couple of manly tears rolled down my face. I can't lie. I had just become a father, and I felt like I was already failing her. Failing my daughter, that is.
Yo, shout out to Don, man. Don cracks me up. Yo, Don, if you see this, bro, you're a real one. I'm dead, bro, because he said a couple of manly tears. So the first time I watched this, I was like, okay, so what do the tears look like if they're unmanly? Like, do they have a shape to them? Like, how does that actually work out? Like, I was dead. That was hilarious to me. All right, guys, let's keep watching.
So I'm not trying to give the impression that I'm just, fucking blubbering in front of my wife on a weekly basis. However, think about what that says. It says two things. One, you are so insecure about your masculinity that you think a moment of weakness, a moment of emotional vulnerability over something that is as serious as the passing of your child is able to undo all of the time that you spent with your wife, where she is able to see what kind of man you are, whether or not you're a bitch or a solid dude. But secondly, it suggests that you think that women are incapable of empathizing with you and putting yourself or putting themselves in your shoes to be able to see whether or not a situation warrants somebody being emotionally distraught. Like, I don't know, the death.
Not a single traffic light. But the global leading company in optical innovation. It's based in Europe's most innovative research.
Of your child? It really is a pathetic thing to think that you can never cry in front of your wife, even in a situation like that. That says. No, that says something super fucked up about you if you believe you can't cry in front of your wife. Now, me, I've cried in front of my wife once when my first daughter was born. We had an issue that occurred, and she had to be immediately hospitalized. And it was literally within 24 hours of her being born. She's perfectly fine now, doing excellent in gymnastics. She's about to turn 4 in a few months. But when she was born, a little situation happened. It was incredibly stressful. We hadn't slept for over 24 hours. And I was just really angry about what was going on.
Yeah, so I just wanted to go back so you guys could actually hear Don go over that story again. My bad about the screen switching to the side. That's why I looked distorted for a minute. So let me see if I readjust, if it looks normal for you guys.
And I cried. It wasn't like sobbing or anything like that, but a couple of manly tears rolled down my face. I can't lie. I had just become a father, and I felt like I was already failing her, failing my daughter, that is. So I'm not trying to give the impression that I'm just, fucking blubbering in front of my wife on a weekly basis. However, think about what that says. It says two things. One, you are so insecure about your masculinity that you think a moment of weakness, a moment of emotional vulnerability over something that is as serious as the passing of your child is able to undo all of the time that you spent with your wife, where she is able to see what kind of man you are, whether or not you're a bitch or a solid dude. But secondly, it suggests that you think that women are incapable of empathizing with you and putting yourself or putting themselves in your shoes to be able to see whether or not a situation warrants somebody being emotionally distraught, like, I don't know, the death of your child? It really is a pathetic thing to think that you can never cry in front of a wife, even in a situation like that.
But look at them blubbering on the internet.
Splice those two together. It's kind of funny to say you would never cry, but then you on stream crying for the whole world.
Right.
He didn't like that. He was quite upset that we was laughing at them.
But to take a video from 2 years ago to somehow leverage that to make fun of me for crying, tearing up when Charlie Kirk was murdered.
This is hilarious. I just beat the text in the bottom. Advent Preach put this sponsored by Israel and AIPAC. Oh my God. That's hilarious. Officer Talmud over here.
It's insane to me.
You're missing the point. The point was not we're not laughing at you because you're the person you admired died.
We laughed at you because of the irony of you wouldn't cry in front of someone close to you because someone else is close to you without, but someone that is remote, you're going to cry in front of the whole world. That's the thing that is laughable. But for you to be so disgusting, and you see your friend get murdered on television, I could imagine what that does to kids. And to try to make fun of somebody for that is the lowest that you can go.
This video is brought to you by TatumStore.com. TatumStore.com, ladies and gentlemen. Black Friday is here.
What?
30% off. Up to 60%.
Ain't no way this nigga went from saying what he just said right into selling and promoting merch. Oh.
Yeah, Brandon Tatum does that often. They say he went to what he was saying right to selling merch. Here's the crazy thing. We say things all of the time, and we don't know what we're talking about. And I say that because Scripture says that, right? Scripture says that we don't even know what we should pray about. Okay, so a couple years ago, Brandon Tatum said, if my child died, I would do my best not to cry in front of my wife. Okay. If there are any people watching or any people in the chat, you don't have to disclose, but if you have a child that has died, I have a baby brother that passed away. So he passed away when he was a baby, which means that my mother has experienced the loss of a child, meaning like she has had a child die and they were extremely young age. He was basically an infant, right? If you have had that happen to you, please tell me, were you around somebody that you saw that happen to them or it happened to you and you just sat there with a straight face? Like you was just like unbothered? Like, yeah, just another kid just died. Dude, Officer Tatum is on a podcast like 2 or 3 years ago and he says, if my kid died, I wouldn't cry in front of my wife. Anybody that's lost a child, especially an infant, knows that is the dumbest thing that you can say. You will break down and cry. It does not matter who you are. Like, we say dumb things all of the time. This is what I mean. And this is the difference between how you think at 27 and how you think at 30 or 31, right? Because the clip is about 2 to 3 years old. It's different. It actually does change, right? Especially if you have mature people around you that are influencing you. So I'm not really bothered as much as they are. They kind of made fun of him and they went back and got the clips and they're like, listen, dude, you said that if your own child died, you wouldn't cry in front of your wife because you want to seem so manly. And then Charlie Kirk dies and you're on the internet and you break it down like a little girl. Okay, well, first of all, and he goes into deep explanation as to why he's doing it. He knows Charlie personally. He was at his wedding. He knows his wife. He's kind of close to his family. Okay, so if all of those are true indeed about Charlie Kirk, how can his own child that came from his body die? And he just, that's just another kid that died. I got to be strong for my wife. It's stupid. So it was dumb for Brandon Tatum to say it, But I didn't care that he said it in the first place because we say dumb things all of the time that we don't know what we're talking about. But even Abba and Preach, like, they're just making a point. Like, dude, come on, man. Like, maybe you shouldn't have said something like that on the air because you clearly just made a fool of yourself by crying over Charlie Kirk on the internet. All right, let's keep watching.
Oh my gosh.
To 608, this nigga went from saying what he just said right into selling and promoting merch. Oh my gosh.
50% off.
What the hell did I just notice? What happened? What happened? What kind of jump cut was that?
It's not a jump cut.
It
is. It's not a jump cut. I can play the original video. That's how he goes from like, how dare you? By the way, why don't you buy these shirts so you can move in style?
But for you to be so disgusting, and you know, I was at his wedding. I know his wife.
Okay.
I could imagine what they does to his kids.
Sure.
And to try to make fun of somebody for that is the lowest that you can go.
Nobody's making fun. Okay.
This video is brought to you by TatumStore.com. TatumStore.com, ladies and gentlemen. Black Friday is here. 30% off, up to 60% on the entire store. And that means every single product. This section here is for 60% off.
Now, did I edit that shit? Is that me? What you want me to do?
Why?
It wasn't me.
This is triggering for him, and I get that. So
that's why he was so triggered. He had to do a merch sale. When I'm triggered, that's what I do too. I'm warning my niggas. Buy my sweatpants so you can stay warm in these cold times.
don't forget to buy these shirts. Don't forget to buy these shirts. We got the merch. Buy these shirts.
Oh my god, that is hilarious.
Let me make sure I know exactly. 2 years ago about men crying.
They're taking a clip from something I said 2 years ago.
Okay. And why is he saying 2 years ago? Right? He's like, why would you do something from 2 years ago? I'm trying to hint that there's something wrong with doing that.
They're taking a clip from something I said 2 years ago. Which is not 2 years ago. I believe the same thing today. But
So who cares? So who cares if it was 2 years ago, 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago? If you still believe the same thing.
Yeah, see, now I didn't see that updated clip. So, God, I hope that's not updated. So if Brandon Tatum still believes the same thing, then now they're pretty much justified in what they're doing. And that's why Don is kind of saying what he's saying during his reaction. He's like, bro, okay, so you still believe this madness? That's why they're making fun of you. Exactly.
That means that video is still relevant today.
Very much so.
So it doesn't matter. We did it 2 years ago. It doesn't matter.
This guy is so fucking slow. And that's why he's a conservative. That's why he's a conservative black MAGA shill. Because he's slow.
But why would you use a clip from me for 3 years ago? I'm an atheist. I'm still an atheist. But why would you use a clip from 3 years ago? So I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I never believe in God. Why use a clip from 3 years ago?
Myron, calm down.
But we have to appreciate the fake outrage. 2 years ago. Why would you use a clip from 2 years ago? I still think that today. Shut the fuck up.
Exactly.
Like, why are you acting like you ain't used older clips to make a point against somebody politically? And if you still, I'm the retard. Because I remember when we did the other video, I said, you know, to be fair to him, this video was from 2 years ago. Maybe he changed his opinion. And his dumbass, no, I changed my opinion. I still think, but how could you use it?
Weak men.
But what's the point? You already cried in front of your wife. You cried in front of the entire world for Charlie Kirk. But you still think you're not going to cry if your kid dies? Oh, please.
Viewed as unattractive. You can make the argument that crying can be viewed as
Wait. Listen to what this clown is saying.
Weak men are viewed as unattractive. You can make the argument that crying can be viewed as a weakness.
Listen to what he said. That crying could be. That's what he said. That crying could be a weakness.
Oh my God.
What? So
you know,
you said you never ever. You went outcast on us. Ever.
Just watch how cowardly he's gonna be. He doesn't want to own what he's doing.
We live for the moment. The
kind that changes history.
It's been incredibly busy.
Sometimes
I look up videos of like armed guys.
So you heard that? He said to the woman, "Oh, you saw a man crying in front of you. That's not why you're not with them." Implying that something is wrong with men crying, and that's why women wouldn't want to do them. Keep watching.
Because women judge men very harshly on that. I would never cry for my wife.
You see him say could there? He was saying never. And he says women judge men for that.
But I admire the guy.
How do you know that? Are you a woman? Has a woman ever told you that they find it, it gives them the ick when men cry in situations that more than warrants crying, like the death of your child? I can't think of a single woman I know that would consider a man crying as some kind of disgusting weakness in a situation like that. Now, of course, if you fucking...
Yeah, I would agree with Don with that. That's kind of crazy. Not over a situation like a child dying. I think it's interesting he says the word ick. I've actually seen it. I think it's kind of toxic, but I've seen women say that they don't like things like that, or that they know it happens, but they rather it not happen in front of them. I've actually seen women say that. But to Don's point where he says a situation that warrants it, like a child dying, he's like, I can't think of a single woman that would judge a guy in a situation like that. Like, say a guy is weak because of something like that. Absolutely not. And if she did, I'd be like, run from her. Like, she's evil she's the epitome of evil in a human body. Run from a woman that would judge you for something like that.
Stub your toe and you start rolling around in the ground and crying, or you're just having a slightly inconvenient day and you get so overwhelmed that you break down into tears, then sure, she's probably going to think you're a bitch. But more than likely, if that's the kind of guy you are, you're a bitch in general. That wouldn't be the moment you realized that you were a bitch because you cried because of some bullshit. You're a bitch in general, more than likely. If that's the kind of guy that you are. And so it's not the crying in of itself that turns a woman off. It's you being an emotionally unstable, unpredictable wreck. And that will manifest itself in multiple ways, including crying all the time for bullshit. But if you're going through a tragedy, like the death of a loved one, or just an incredibly insane situation, and you shed a few manly tears, Ain't no woman gonna be turned off by that.
They said the reasons why he wouldn't cry because he needs to be strong for his father. And every man, in my personal opinion, would want to have that perspective. I will try not to cry for anybody. There's compulsion for me to cry at times, and I will not do it in front of people. I saw my father cry one time, and it was at his father's.
So you think if a man shows his emotion makes him less man?
No, I just think they shouldn't do it. I know when emotions happen to me, and I refrain from exposing them.
I think a man who is not able to control his anger is more off-putting to a woman than a man who feels comfortable crying in front of his woman in, situations that obviously warrant somebody being distraught to that degree. That's a crazy part. These red pill alpha male manosphere guys will blow their fucking top, get angry, get pissed off at their girl, which is a form of being very emotional. And don't think that makes them seem emotional to their girl, but because they don't cry, they think that they see them as this like macho manly guy. It's fucking ridiculous.
I look up videos of like armed guys.
We need to just be straight. It is mentally ill to believe it's normal to not cry in front of your wife, but it's normal to cry on the internet.
Right, for sure.
It's weird. Now, I can be generous and say I agree with the sentiment that during a time of crisis, you guys are in the heat of battle, you guys are dealing with something that's an emergency, that you're going to put aside your emotions to deal with what's in front. That's a super normal statement. But like, the problem with a lot of these characters, like Tatum, is that they live in absolutism because they're like doing this like.
So one of them feels it's normal, one of them feels like it isn't. I think the interesting part about it is that it's normal to react to something in that way. that much emotion flooding you because a child has died or you're dealing with something that's very traumatic and you just become overwhelmed with emotion, I think that that's fine. I think it's very interesting that this is something that's like even a thing, but I've seen this topic before and it's just like I just think it could be extremely toxic, and I think we have to be careful with it. To say something like men shouldn't cry, I just think that that's just weird. I don't even know what that's about, but yeah, I don't think that you should be crying all day every day, but even women don't do that unless something's going on with their hormones or they're pregnant or they're dealing with something. No one really cries all day every day. But yeah, I understand what they're saying as far as like a man doing it. I don't think I've ever seen a man express his emotions like that, crying every day all day. I don't think that that's just the default for a man. But yeah, they pretty much blasted Officer Tatum for this. You won't cry about your dead kid in front of your wife, but you went on the internet and you cried about Charlie Kirk. So yeah, they essentially he got blasted for this. He did, and they came for him hard.
Alpha male, a very strong man, like super traditional fucking cosplay. And it's just not real. It's not in real life. That's what guys, soldiers on deployment, they cry. They might not cry when bullets are flying over their head.
Bro, fucking Vegeta cried, nigga. Goku cried. Jesus wept. Jesus didn't cry. Jesus wept, bro. And he was supposed.
Yo, I don't know what I'm gonna do with Don. I don't know. The fact that he said Vegeta and Goku cried first and then he went to Jesus. I don't know what I'm gonna do with you, Don. That just killed me, bro. This man said Vegeta cried, Goku cried, and then went to Jesus wept. I'm cooked, bro.
United States Postal Service. Delivering since 1775.
Insurance or not, Goodall Rex is the winning hand.
Supposed to be God, the God that you believe in. And so what? You were trying to tell me that you think you're more macho and more masculine than God, nigga? Give me a fucking break. Although opposite Tatum, he denies the Trinity, so he doesn't believe Jesus is God. But at the very least, you think that nigga was fucking cold as fuck, right? Walking on water, raising the dead and shit. Commanding armies of angels. And so, if that guy can cry, why can't you?
When they get back to the barracks and they deal with the day's stress, maybe not that moment, but the day after or the week after, some of them break down cry. And if you think the other soldiers are going to look at him like you a bitch, you're crazy. I've seen soldiers, police officers.
All of these macho, alpha male, conservative Christian guys would have called Jesus a bitch, then, is what I'm hearing. That's what I'm fucking hearing.
Situations that are completely crazy, and you see them run off to the corner because something's traumatic, and they cry. And if you think that other men are like, we can't do our job because one officer over there, that's not real. And that's why people are laughing at you. It's because you're trying to uphold this image of men that's not real. Men are human. We deal with stressful situations the way that you're dealing with Charlie Kirk. And sometimes we break down. And we can't control it the way you're pretending you can. We're laughing because there's hubris in thinking you're going to control grief. You're going to control all your emotions whenever you want. That's how you respond.
Bro, one of my best friends, his dog just died tragically in a hit-and-run accident, right? And I wasn't there. I'm not a super big dog person. I grew up in Jamaica. In Jamaican culture, we do not see dogs as a part of our family. I'm sure some Jamaicans do, especially in 2025. But growing up, dogs, they stay outside, they stay chained up to kennels and shit like that. They're for protection purposes. You have them in your yard to bark if a stranger comes in your yard, or if they're trained to maybe even attack somebody who is trying to invade your property. And so I'm not really like when the whole Hassan shit was happening because he used a shot collar in his dog. Bro, I couldn't give less of a fuck. Also, I thought that shit was so crazy how the entire internet was in this uproar over a fucking dog when you literally have all kinds of tragedies going around in America and around the world, and people don't give a single fuck about that shit, and that shit is goofy as fuck to me. But okay, different cultures are different. In America, the culture regarding dogs, especially with white people, is that the dogs are a part of their family. But even black people move like that in America too. And so one of my best friends, his dog died. And
I promise you, I think I can't remember who I was watching. I think it was Bishop Nathaniel. I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was definitely a pro-black gentleman, and he was just talking about some history with like Europeans over in Europe and like black Americans and like how just like how we all have assimilated in the difference between like Caucasian Americans and black Americans when it comes to animals, right? And the way he put it literally had me cracking up like I was cooked, but it sounds so believable, and I was able to understand it, and it resonated with me. He said, listen, check this out. When you see a black person in America loving a dog, he's like, that's just their assimilation. To after they came over here as a slave, they got assimilated with the Caucasian people and the white people, and now they love these dogs. He said, black people, he said, that's not natural for us. We don't like animals like that. Now, here's what I tell you. Overall, like to Don's point, that's pretty true. Like, I can tell you right now, growing up as a child, my mother did not want us to have any type of animal. One, because she would always say it would become her animal, or because she didn't want to end up cleaning up after it. But specifically with the black race, right? It's not like the dog is like, oh my God, this is like my baby or my child, or they sleep in the bed with me and they could kiss me in the mouth. That's not normal amongst black families, right? But you do have some black families and some black people that move like that with their dogs. Bishop Nathaniel was like, they've been whitewashed if they're doing that. That's just not a natural thing for black people. Here's why I say that, right? If you go to African countries, like listen to what Don is saying, and if you go to Africa, they are not treating dogs like that. Like they don't treat the animal like that. The animal is not a child. This is not my baby. Bro, I'm gonna just tell you right now. We're wilding out in America when it comes to pet insurance. Like if you went to some of these countries, especially an African country, and you explain to them that you take your animal to the doctor when it doesn't feel well, you give it medicine, you put it in a blanket and in a bed. Like, bro, some of these coaches are gonna be like, bro, if you don't eat that dog and stop playing. So I'm trying to tell you, like, what Don is saying here, I understand when he's like, in Jamaica, like, the dog's not that. Like, the dog's there for protection. The dog is usually outside. Bro, for the most part, in black communities in America, it is like that with the dog. But you do have some black people, man, they sus, bro. They've been whitewashed. They're not going to tell you that that's what it is. And they love that dog. They French kissing that dog. They sleeping with that dog, bro. They over the top with that dog. The dog is on their table where they eat food at. Man, I lose my mind. I can't do it. All right, let's keep watching.
And just out of my brotherly love for my boy. And he was telling me that story, bro, and I could feel like my eyes kind of welling up just out of my sadness for my boy, empathizing for my boy. And I've met the dog before. The dog, it was a great dog, man. It was really tragic. There is something wrong with you. You have some wrong with you if you're incapable of feeling those emotions, of empathizing for other people. And maybe that's why we see so much cruelty in today's political discourse, because so many people, young men, are buying into this alpha male conservative bullshit and are becoming unwell. They're becoming mentally unwell, man. And
Chris Noble is in the store. He's gonna break it. No.
Cruel and evil.
Fuck it. We're laughing at you because you said you would never do this in front of the one person who should be able to see you at your most vulnerable. That's what's absurd. Y'all cry on the internet, but you won't cry in front of your loved ones, and you think that's not mentally unwell.
Yeah.
So I don't care. I know Preach is not like this. Preach says, I don't want to see you cry, whatever. He doesn't like that shit. I personally don't care.
I'm not doing that, though. Fuck that. Hell no. Y'all niggas will never see me cry a single day in my life, bro. You know what I'm saying? No, everybody in my family could die, bro. I'm not crying on the internet. That ain't happening. I will cry. I will be bawling like an infant if something horrible like that were to happen. I probably would be bawling like an infant, but I will be doing it in the privacy of my bedroom, in the security of my blanket. Fuck that, nigga. Y'all will never see me cry. And I don't think that's the right place to share those kinds of emotions. I don't think you should come to the internet and be crying like that.
I just think this standard of like, I will cry in front of the people who've known me my whole life, but I'll cry for strangers. My wife will be destabilized because she sees me. Do you not understand that women are not retarded creatures? That women can also be tough during stressful times? That women can sometimes be your rock when you're going through something? It's not just a one-way street.
Listen, bud. What I understand from this is this. You lied. Or you thought you was that one and you're not. Kid would die. You would cry. And I think that's okay. If your dad would die, he would cry. And if not, but you cry for your... You're weird.
You're weird as fuck.
And right now, you even see this and you don't comprehend that because I understand the triggers, whatever.
You're generous. You're being generous.
I'm always the generous one.
Yeah, you're being very generous.
Yes, very. But the reason why he's doing that is he's triggered because there was laughter, there was his friend. But no, you would cry. If you cried for that, you would cry for your family.
Here's how you dodge accountability. You frame it against the argument that you know you think you can win against, which is like moral outrage. They laughed at me. Listen, if you were
I was watching this video, and we might react to it too. In this video, one of these guys, I think it was Aaron from the something like that. Aaron, he went to one of these most dangerous hoods in America. And he was talking to a bunch of like YN gangsters, you know what I'm saying? Dudes who kill people, dudes who lost people to gang violence, and young guys too. And he asked him, "Oh, do you ever cry? You know, as you think about all of the horrible shit that has happened to you and the people around you." And he's like, "Yeah, I cry all the time." The guy who he was talking to, yeah, I cry all the time. And nobody watching that video will get the impression that this dude is not a fucking demon, bro. And that's why the crying in of itself isn't the issue. When you know that guy is a truly hard individual, if you were to see them crying, it wouldn't make a difference to you. Which is why when you see Vegeta crying in Dragon Ball Z, you don't start to think, oh, Vegeta's a little bitch. No, people will judge your character based on how you are the majority of the time. And then in unique situations, if you act out of the ordinary, people are going to understand that it's because...
Don, you gotta chill with the Vegeta references, bro. You killing me, bro. Like, come on, man.
They're going through a very traumatic situation right here, right now. This isn't who they are as a person. And so don't be afraid to cry in front of people if you're going through something. Because that crying is a part of the healing process. That grieving and allowing those emotions to come up and processing them. That is a part of, moving on from the situation. That's another reason why you got so many dudes walking around with all this pent-up anger. It's because they've never allowed themselves to just feel those emotions fully, release them, process them, and then move on with their lives.
Yeah, people because they were mourning the death of Charlie Kirk. I would have made videos about Megyn Kelly. I would have made videos about all the other content creators. We didn't. So to pretend like people just want to laugh at you because you cry, that's you just being a victim. You enjoy that because it's the one road you can win down. You didn't mention any of the things that we said, which is fine. You just went, oh, can you believe that they laughed at the death of a hood and NASA is so good to me, and they cried and laughed. Why buy my shirt? $5.99. He did a performance, and he was gripping people emotionally, right? And it's funny to me because I grew up in this internet.
You know what's so crazy? At this point, which one of these fucking alpha male super macho guys that love to talk shit about women or act like they're so tough? Which one of them haven't we seen cry on the internet by this point? We've seen Myron cry. We've seen the opposite Tatum cry. Let me see if there's a video of Andrew Tate crying.
Missing. He cried. There were tears that ran down my face, but I did not cry. I mean, that's crying. I would disagree.
Okay, there are no videos of him crying, but he apparently cried when he got released from jail. Or actually, he didn't cry. He just allowed...
All right, Don. Like, Andrew Tate's answer just topped all your Vegeta references, bro. I'm there with him. He said, there were tears that fell down my face, but I didn't cry. Piers Morgan said, well, that's crying. He said, I disagree. Bruh, if you ain't have something in your eye, bro, then you were crying. But I understand. I understand.
vanity tears run down his face. So I guess my wife ain't never seen me cry either.
Each one I heard how fucking emotional libtards are and everything.
Just allowed.
I would disagree.
Let me see if there's a video of Andrew Tate crying.
Missing. He cried. There were tears that ran down my face, but I did not cry.
I mean, that's crying.
I would disagree.
Okay, there are no videos of him crying, but he apparently cried when he got released from jail. Or actually, he didn't cry. He just allowed vanity tears to run down his face. So I guess my wife ain't never seen me cry either.
Each one I heard how fucking emotional libtards are and everything like that. But you realize like these motherfuckers, they all love to do this victim shit whenever they get criticized.
What if your kid died?
That's a different thing. I mean, I would try not to cry for my wife with my kid.
I have never, and my wife has never seen me cry. I've never cried for my wife.
He thinks that's a flex. You have cried in front of your wife. Exactly. When you cried over Charlie Kirk, you cried in front of your wife, sir. Do you think just because it was on video makes a difference? If you think a woman seeing tears roll down your face out of sadness makes you look like a bitch, your wife thinks you're a bitch now. Because she for sure saw you crying, and crying over a man, too. A man that you barely know compared to your children. It's insane.
The person that is the most close to you.
A racist man at that. A racist fucking piece of shit, too.
Not gonna see it, but you're gonna expose yourself like an up-and-coming model to everybody else.
My God, you're just not conservative enough. You're not conservative enough. Because conservative women don't have internet.
Right. For sure.
That's what I'm talking about.
I heard a guy say this. Is that when my father passes away, which everybody's parents gonna pass away, I'm not gonna cry at his funeral.
So as you listen to it, I saw a clip of a guy say that I'm not going to cry at my dad. I didn't say I wasn't going to cry at my dad's funeral. I said the guy that I admired had said,
nigga, you already cried on the internet. Shut the fuck up. Also, who gives a fuck? You said something way crazier that you wouldn't cry if your child died. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. When my parents pass away, will I cry? I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I can tell you, even just the thought of something bad happening to my children, like if I were to actually really imagine a situation where one of my children died tragically, painfully, whether that be from some kind of crazy illness or like a horrible accident or something like that, God forbid. Just the thought of that alone is enough to start to well up very intense feelings of sadness within me. And so I'm already knowing that shit better not fucking happen, because I'll be a fucking wreck, dude. Ain't no question about that.
I didn't say I wouldn't cry at my dad's funeral. I just said I'm not going to do it in front of my wife. I go cry my own. I didn't say I wouldn't cry at my dad's funeral. I just said I'm not going to do it in front of my wife.
Is your wife not going to be at your dad's funeral?
No. You know why?
So he's trying to walk back the statement, right? He's doing this cowardly thing where he's trying to run away from what he said.
He's like, no, I never said I wouldn't cry at my dad's funeral.
Okay, well, what if your wife's there?
What, are you going to run and hide in a corner to cry at your dad's funeral?
Right.
I don't know, bro. Y'all trying to make sense for me. I don't really understand. Let's keep watching.
Honestly, I think that shit in a way might actually fucking make a woman more attracted to you. I ain't gonna lie to you. Not you know, full blown snot crying and drooling like how you saw fucking Officer Tatum cry over the racist Charlie Kirk. But you know what I'm saying? If you're there, you got that stoic look on your face, you're standing up strong. But you know what I'm saying? You're weeping though. You're weeping just over like some tragic happening. I don't know. I think a lot of women might actually find that in an interesting.
The Greeks carved statues out of an ideal.
Way like attractive. Not like they think crying men are sexy, but you know, you just being so comfortable in your masculinity and your ability to really feel your emotions and empathize with other people. I think a lot of women would actually find that attractive. But I don't know. Ladies, you let me know in the comment section down below.
But when stuff hit the road, I need to be strong for my wife. That's all I said. you don't get your lick back.
Oh, hell nah. Oh my God, bro is blubbering.
This is a sickness.
Bro, he got the snot cry.
For me,
For Charlie Kirk.
I think he separates silence. That's what I think.
He can't even get the words out.
This is the loudest silence I ever heard in my life. It was snotty. It was. Listen, I don't call it Million Dictionary because I don't think that shit's included in silence.
Yeah, I'm gonna cry my own. 4 million people see you.
Like when my daughter had that little situation when she was born, I wasn't crying like that. I wasn't hitting the nose. I was out here that shit, nigga. No, you cried like a fucking baby for Charlie Cook.
God forbid your wife sees you.
Yeah, 4 million randoms?
Right.
What? Are we even discussing right now?
Let's just put. We'll move on from Officer Talman.
These guys are.
I thought it was music at first. I didn't realize.
Think about this.
Think about that.
Shout out to Walter. He might be a potato, but he definitely gave us some great quotes.
Now, I have cried multiple times because of Charlie's death.
Wow.
Only reason I could have turned the feed off. Been like, turn the feed off.
I told you guys they cooked him for this, man. They cooked Officer Tatum for this, man. And I was just like, oh man, we got to go over this a little bit, just because it's just a funny thing to watch. Like I said, news moves fast, and sometimes it moves bad and violently. But when we catch the good stuff, we're gonna catch it. We're gonna react to it. That was just pretty funny in my opinion. Like them taking those clips and making fun of Brandon Tatum because he was not because he was crying over Charlie. I understand why he was crying over Charlie Kirk's death, but it was just funny to see his reaction to them doing that. Like, he was clearly pissed off about it. So I'm like, dude, they want to take his man card. I think not for crying, but because he said he wouldn't cry in front of his wife, and then he cried over Charlie Kirk. So yeah, all right, guys, let's keep it moving with the clips. We got a couple more to go.
Come back and move forward. Purdue Global at PurdueGlobal.edu.
Somali welfare queen Ilhan Omar called me out.
Proud African American. Black Americans versus the world. That's what it seemed like. Recently, New York City elected his new mayor, Zohran Mamdani. Now, he seems like a cool dude. He kind of reminds me of Barack Obama. A lot of billionaires are against him, high-ranking elite people, so that's always a good thing. But during his winning speech, he says something kind of alarming.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants. And as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
Now, although he was just
Nate, I'm trying to tell you, Antonio. I'm trying to tell you. Listen. This is him. Like, this is him. I've watched so many press conferences by this guy, Antonio. This is who he is. I'm surprised he didn't say Muslim, right? And he said immigrant. And if you like Muslim, it's like, yo, I watched a couple of press conferences with Zoran. He's very much outspoken about this. This is why it would frustrate me for so many years when black people would say, when I would ask, who are you voting for this election year? And they would be like, I'm not voting. I'm not voting. And they kept saying that and they kept doing that. And you would hear certain people say, if the black people keep doing that, the black vote eventually won't count. It won't be needed. It won't count. I'm telling you right now, with all the immigration and everything going on, it's damn near gotten to that point, right? So it's like, we need to pay attention. This is why I always tell black people when they get into that mindset of like, they're not going, I don't like either candidate, so I'm not going to vote. Nah, you better pick somebody. You better pick somebody. Like, you don't have that right to vote and you just squander it. Well, don't tell me what to do. I'm an American citizen. I don't have to use it. My ancestors fought for me for the right to not use it. They fought for you to use it. I promise you that they didn't go through the things that they went through for you to just be like, I don't like either no candidate, so I'm not voting for nobody. You better pick the greater of the two evils. It's your duty as a citizen to vote. So let's keep watching.
That's referring to New York. My point is going to still stand. Black Americans are never given the proper credit. We all know who really took a hand in building this country. Now, I will say maybe he didn't mean this with malice intent, or it maybe slipped his mind. This is why I feel the way I do about politics. I don't think either side have the best interest of black people. Because today we're going to talk about how black people, but black Americans in specific, seem to be the most hated worldwide. Now, for one, this is not a diaspora video. I am a proud African American. Emphasis on the African, okay? I will say this though. I do understand a lot of the arguments. Many African Americans want to just stand alone. The same way that Jamaicans do or Haitians, we just want to be black Americans. Now, the black American experience is very unique. The rights that our people have fought for and are continuing to fight for literally benefit everyone. Let's take DEI, for example. The biggest beneficiary to that is white women. Crazy, right? And to bring back up immigrants, the reason that most of them are able to get into America is because of black Americans. So it's just a huge slap in the face that most of these communities are anti-black.
You know, black Americans are the only group that fights back against white supremacy. No other group fights back against white supremacy. Every other group tries to like thread the line and like not say too much. You go through Vic Ramaswamy's comment section and it's just white people telling him to go back to India, that they don't want him, they're calling him a G. You go through FBI Director Castle's comment section on Twitter and it's them doing the same thing, telling him to go back to India, he shouldn't be here, he shouldn't have a job, he's DEI. You know, we're the only, maybe like the Indians don't fight back, the Hispanics don't fight back, the Asians don't fight back.
It's just me, but I just feel like this entire year I've been finding out that literally everybody hates black Americans, even black people all around the world. And no shade, that's probably why our ancestors said all skin pink.
When your phone plan is good as visible, you've got to tell your people.
I just switched to visible unlimited data. But every time I feel like the way that people feel about us is the way they should actually feel about white people. Because we didn't do anything to
to start off this video, take a look at this screenshot. Why are the Latino numbers so high for Trump? Now, my personal experience with Latinos and Hispanics has been very chill for the most part. I live down south in South Carolina, so I don't experience Hispanics as often. So my experiences may be different from someone living in Texas or California.
We just discussed the hidden animosity the Latino community has with black people, bro. Because to be completely honest, man, you would think that minorities would band us together. But the essays down in San Diego still acting like the Jim Crow laws are still in effect. Like, chill.
These Houston Mexicans are racist. These Houston Latino people are racist. I'm telling you. Listen, I have been dealing with them for over 12, 13 years. You feel what I'm saying? These folks are racist, bro.
Let me tell you, here in Texas, the amount of racism I've ever even come close to experiencing from Mexicans. When I was a dancer, when I was a stripper, the way that the clubs were so racist. There was a time I went to a club out in Texas, and the club told me that, oh, they don't hire girls like me. This is a club full of a bunch of, I would say, illegals. And they said, oh, they don't take girls like us. We should go down to the club down the street, the Black Club. Karma is beautiful. Karma is beautiful. And you know what's funny? I went by that club a couple days ago. Empty. It's empty. Even though the racism applied to me, I still voted against all this shit. I voted against it. And guess what they did? Voted to hurt me.
Coming from a Hispanic, Puerto Rican and Dominican or whatever, right? Hispanic people, they racist as fuck, bro. In my family, I'm the only one that got this texture hair. Like I remember as a kid, like I love my uncle, but he crazy. But I remember my uncle as a kid telling me, "Oh, like you got that peasy hair and shit like that." Because everybody in my family got that slick shit. That you know what I'm saying? So I'm always thinking, I'm like, alright, my hair peasy, my hair bad, and that's what I'm talking about my wife. And she taught me about, hair textures. Now I be going down memory lane and shit. And I'm like, damn. My family really used to be racist as shit.
This isn't surprising to me. The whole entire world is anti-black. And this is because of colorism. Mexico was colonized by white Spaniards. And the closer you were to whiteness, the better. So, I mean, I get it.
A lot of people don't understand when I say that Mexicans are culturally racist. Part of our culture is to frown upon dark-skinned people. It's been passed down to us by the Spaniards, by our colonizers, by the people that conquered us, taught us that dark skin is inferior, light skin is superior.
Now, the next minority I want to discuss is the Asian American community. I already did a video on my second channel talking about the pick-me Asian epidemic because a lot of them, they love that white validation of white gaze. But we do got to talk about the very much anti-blackness within the Asian community.
Why don't you like us black people? Non-American.
That's interesting because this is something that I was aware of, but I shout out to the Mexican guy that was transparent about that. He says, that is something about Mexicans. We are culturally racist, and I have heard that before. He says we've been taught that. We've been taught that by our colonizers. The people who colonized Mexico, they taught us that if you're lighter skinned, you're inferior, and if you're darker skinned, if you're lighter skinned, you are inferior. If you're darker skinned, you're not. And it's interesting because when you think about it, it's the same exact thing as like what exactly happened in America, right? If you're white, you're elite. If you're black, you're not. And it's interesting to see that because there are other parts of the world where it's the exact opposite, right? Where almost that if you're too light or if you're white, that is actually frowned upon. And the darker you are, the richer you are, the more melanated you are, it's actually almost considered royalty in certain places. So I just think it's interesting in like the Americas and the countries surrounding, America. It's always like the lighter skin is better. The lighter skin is more, I'm sorry, I said inferior. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little tired. Superior, right? The lighter skin is superior, whereas the darker skin is inferior. So it's just interesting, to see him say that. But shout out to him for being that transparent, because I've never really heard a Mexican person just flat out say it like that. I've heard like little stories, people say little things, but he's like, no, we are culturally racist because that's what was taught to us.
American Asians always gave me the cold shoulder. American Asians were cool, and I often hang out with them. Are they just not used to us?
Partially. Sad to say, but I know that there's anti-blackness very much so in a lot of Asian American communities. And obviously, unfortunately, anti-blackness is global. And I think
it's a very long historical answer.
Yeah.
Some of it has to do with not being used to it. Okay, so colonization happened throughout the whole world when white colonizers took over Asia, Africa, all the other continents. And with that came the belief of anti-blackness that was instilled upon all of these communities. Now, once those colonizations ended, you were left with this homogenized community where they don't know anyone who don't look like they're all white, all Asian, all South Asian, whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden, you fast forward to having technology and Western media, because again, controlled by whiteness, is pushing out this message of that black communities are gangsters, do this, they do that. And then that media is pushing out this message of that black communities where they don't know anyone who don't look like they're all white, all Asian, all South Asian, whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden, you fast forward to having technology and Western media, because again, controlled by whiteness, is pushing out this message of that black communities are gangsters, do this, they do that. And then that media gets pushed out into the world.
Let me go to that real quick. Hold on, man. Media gets pushed.
In the form of movies and TV shows. And now you take this.
Okay, movies and TV shows. So basically, what Asian people see on TV and what Mexicans see on TV, they really believe. I mean, I'm not really buying it, but here's the thing. I didn't always have this experience, right? Like when that Asian lady was reading that question, as a black person, I've always experienced the cold shoulder from Asians. I actually have not always had that lived experience with Asian people until not too long ago. I'm not really going to put a time range on it, because if I do that and someone closer to me ever watches this particular video, they'll be able to put together who I'm speaking about. So I'm going to be as vague as possible, but still transparent at the same time, which is hard, and tell the story. But I didn't always experience that. As a matter of fact, for a majority of my life, I had a pretty good relationship with a lot of Asian people, and I didn't have much of a thought process about them. And a lot of that is probably because I grew up in New York. So growing up in New York in the Bronx, I mean, some of you guys, if you're familiar with the area, you already know. Chinese restaurant, Cantonese, Asian restaurants all over the place, everywhere, right? A lot of the times, like, I knew how to use chopsticks before I learned how to play certain instruments. So it was just kind of crazy. That was my experience, whether I was going to the Chinese restaurant with food stamps to do an exchange, if you know, you know, or whether I was just getting my mother her favorite dish from there. I was always just kind of rapping with them. But I had a work situation where I worked with an Asian person that at first I really couldn't understand the guys deal with me. Like, and maybe it's because, like, I had other Asian people at my job, but we didn't have close proximity. Like, I didn't work in the same place as them, you can say, or maybe the same work area. Yeah, company, but not work area. And I really didn't understand the guys deal with me. Like, when he first came, we hit it off pretty well. And that's just because I'm a very personable person. Like, I try to make people feel comfortable. I don't coddle them, but, I don't try to be ignorant on purpose. But I just didn't get it. Over time, he really changed. And I mean, there were things about him that I could have easily gave him crap about, but I didn't, right? Like, I didn't give him crap about the fact that he was a gay guy, because I don't care about that. Like, I don't tease people for those things. And, I don't like, like, rag on people about their lifestyle and things like that, even though I'm a Christian. That's just not who I am. So I could have been that type of guy, but I wasn't. Like, I didn't care about that. I had heard stories about him, about his husband, and I was pretty respectful. And we would have conversations, but there was really a communication barrier between the two of us. A lot of the times I would say something, or I would be trying to articulate myself to him, and he always felt like I was coming off very aggressive, even when I would go out of my way to make sure. Now, this was the only time I would coddle him, because in this situation, if I'm honest, I felt like he was a baby here. He always felt like someone was being overly aggressive, right? And his defense was, well, Asian people are, they're very meek. And I remember having a conversation with him, and I said, I wouldn't attribute meekness to Asian people, but I guess I get where you're trying to go. I would actually contribute a level of arrogance there now, because there's just a lot more I noticed as an adult that as a young child I just didn't pay attention to. And I just think it's hilarious. Like, for me, I'm not like other people who, like, try to go out of my way to make Asian people feel comfortable. It's like, first of all, if you're an Asian person, especially if you're an Asian person and you're not from this country, and you try to be ignorant with me, you're probably going to see a bad side of me. I don't let people who aren't from this country come and try to make me feel less than, and I was born here. That, I don't play that game, especially as somebody who served in the military. I'm like, I'll tell you, you can go back to where you came from real quick. And don't even try the Africa stuff with me, buddy, because I ain't been there. It's too hot over there, and I don't know nobody over there. But people who aren't from this country, I don't let them come over here and disrespect black people that were born here. And when I meet Asian people that try to do that, they usually don't see the greatest side of me, because it's like, bro, you're not about to come over here and try to make me feel less than. And one, you're not even from here, you're not even a citizen, but you think because you're super lighter than me that you're white. Like, yeah, you're just having a dream. I get it. Like, there was a point in time where the white people adopted all the little Asian children, and they rather have done that than adopted the black kids. I get it, and I still don't care. If you're not from this country, like, you're really not about to come to where I fought for the country and I was born here and try to make me feel like anything. White people who were born here can't even make me feel like that. So Asian people seriously aren't going to be able to make me feel like that. So I totally understand, like, this rhetoric that's being put out there when black people, like, where does the cold shoulder come from? I really never had that experience with Asian people until I would say just a couple years ago, fairly recent, but it's just an interesting thing to see when it does happen. I remember watching, I think it was an episode by Middle Ground. Those of you who know what that is. And I remember them asking a question. It was African Americans and Asians there. And they asked the question, it's important to me that I'm accepted by white America. And like all of the Asian people came forward and sat down, and only like one black person came forward. And it's like, yeah, because we know, like, we're not brainwashed by that type of stuff, but they still are to an extent. And I was actually like shocked by this because I didn't think Asian people really cared that much about what white people thought about them. That was actually an eye-opener for me because all of them came forward and they all spoke about it. And they was like, yeah, to an extent, we do feel like if we're accepted by white people, that we are accepted into white culture. And I was like, huh. So y'all think because white people, like, you think because they adopted y'all and because you real light that you, like, do you think that you white? Because that's not going to work. Like, obviously, they never encountered a white supremacist, right? They don't understand what a white supremacist would call pure blood. So I just thought that was hilarious. I just wanted to share that quick story time with you guys. Let's go back to the clip.
Homogenized community who has learned anti-blackness through colonization and stuff like that, on top of the fact that it's then mixed with people who are learning about these races for the first time through fictionized television that is controlled by white media, and then you have this biased look. So when they meet black people for the first time, they're having to reconcile what they have been essentially brainwashed into thinking versus then trying to figure out what that means when they meet you and they're like, but you're not any of these things.
This claim, unsupported by facts, is the result of a well-funded misinformation campaign scapegoating black people for anti-Asian violence. The president, who spread anti-Asian rhetoric that led to the increase in anti-Asian violence, not black. Robert Aaron Long, not black. The guy in New York City who attacked 7 Asian American women in one afternoon, not black. We are done listening to oppressors tell lies about the people whom they oppress. And while Asian Americans did experience the greatest percent increase in hate crimes, do you know who experienced the greatest increase in incidents of hate crime during that same period of time? Black people. The anime community can be pretty racist. And that's not just coming from like black cosplayers getting comments like, oh, this character isn't black. But even within the representations of black or dark-skinned people in anime, for example.
I'm not a songwriter, I'm not a sex symbol, but I am an entertainer.
This, whatever the fuck this is, this, the list goes on.
Now, there was recently an incident that happened on TikTok where an Asian woman, actually she was mixed with white, so she was a mixed Asian woman, and she was discussing how whenever she goes to, an Asian grocery store, she side-eyes the white people.
I really am a nice person, but I can't stop myself from giving snark to the white people at Asian grocery stores. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, I can't stop doing it. Like, I just side-eye every time I see you there. What are you doing here?
As a young black man, I understood her. It's the same sentiment that I say all the time. It's ghetto or it's cool until a white person does it. With us, our rap music is always demonized. The way we dress is demonized. But then when they do it, it's trendy, it's cool. This is the same way a lot of Asians feel. Throughout history, they always made fun of them, saying, oh, they eating cats and dogs and doing this and that. Now you want to go shop at their stores and eat like them. Okay, I understand your pain. But like expect y'all, some of the biggest Asian creators on TikTok came out and defended they white people.
I just saw this hideous video by this Asian American content creator who basically confessed that she side-eyes and judges any non-Asian patrons when she goes to whatever version of Asian grocery store she visits. I find this content to be so freaking tone deaf and disgusting.
I can't tell if you were just joking, but you should take this down immediately. The thing is, we all are foreigners in other people's spaces too, which means that we all experience feeling like a fish out of water.
Now, like I stated, I'm not Asian, and I feel where she was coming from. Seeing those other creative videos kind of enraged me. I'm like, bruh, stop tap dancing for them folks, right?
I stand with H-Mart Girl. I stand with side-eyeing white people who come into Asian spaces after spending decades, i.e. my entire childhood, watching them make fun of my food. Some of the big Asian creators who are like piling onto that girl, they be married to white men. They got that white man by making themselves small. bringing him to dim sum, bringing him to the community center, bringing him to Chinese school.
I kind of roll my eyes even more at these creators because one of them has a white husband, the other one mostly dates white people, and the third one's unknown. So already, right off the bat, I'm like, okay, I don't know if you can speak on this issue because you are already a little bit biased, and I'm sure you want your husband's age. 5 minutes of being stared at in a grocery store, it will never be oppressive to white people. I think that's the nuance that all these creators are missing.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're acting in arms like this is the...
I'm sorry, but on this, I have to agree with even the Asian guy because this is hilarious to me. I'm like, yeah, he's like 5 minutes of white people being stared at in the store is not going to make them feel oppressed. I said, you damn right it's not. They actually don't give a damn. If anything, eventually they might ask, why the hell are you looking at me? But it's funny because I feel the other girl when she's like, so you spend most of my childhood making fun of my food and then you show up in my grocery store. So I go with the girl that I'm side-eyeing you. Well, you should, because guess what happened when COVID happened? They were side-eyeing y'all. And every time you guys showed up somewhere, they were like, oh, there's an Asian person. Do they have COVID in their pocket? Oh yeah, you don't even want to know the dumb, ignorant stuff that they were saying then. For about 4 seconds, black people weren't the target of everything, and now it's like, yeah, remember that? The Chinese virus, the slanted eye virus, all that stupidness? Oh yeah. So you guys go ahead and say dumb things like, it's accepted that I feel accepted by the white community. Okay, keep drinking that white Kool-Aid.
The most oppressive thing that we as people of color could possibly do to white people in a grocery store. And to say that we have to be super accepting. I'm not saying that white people can't shop at H Mart. I'm just saying we don't need to celebrate that they are willing to shop at H Mart. We don't need to celebrate that they're open-minded and want to try a new culture. They can just do that and exist. And we don't need to give them validation because that is the lowest bar for white pandering of ever.
It really is, and it's ridiculous. You don't need to give them validation. Because I'm going to tell you something. To my personal story, the only reason why I felt some type of way, like when I finally realized that this guy was treating me a certain type of way, and at first, at this Asian man at work, it wasn't always noticeable. But then I realized, he had a problem if I was in the same meetings he was in. He had a problem every time I had to get trained on something new that maybe only he did. And then the boss or the tech lead would be like, hey, Q's about to take this over next week, so you need to train him to do this. He would have an attitude about that, or he would go back and forth with my boss and say things like, is it really necessary that Q learns this? Mind you, who the hell does this guy think he is? To give you guys context to this is, at this point, this person had been working with me, and I had been at the job, let's just say 5 times longer than he had been there, right? He was basically new, but not very new. And he's asking my boss, why do I need to get trained on something? Really, what he was trying to say is, why are you trying to take this responsibility from me and give it to this black guy? Because I'm better at it than you are. And he just couldn't stand that. He literally couldn't stand it. And it's really hilarious to see this. So no, you don't need to coddle to it at all. If anything, you need to just deal with it. Feel how you want to feel about it. Because like I said, if you think for one moment when COVID was going on, black people were sitting there siding with what of a lot of ignorant, shout out to the amazing Lucas, white people were saying about Asian people, we weren't. And that's why I was so bothered by this guy when he started being ignorant towards me. Because how do you think I would react when I would hear certain white people say, oh, the Chinese virus, the slanted eye virus, here comes an Asian person that probably got COVID, or they got COVID in their pocket? What do you think the majority of black people were saying when people were saying that about y'all? We were saying that they were ignorant. That's what we were saying. It's not like we were siding with that. But then you guys come and you're like, oh, because you're fairer skinned than us, you could literally not be from the country and you think that you could treat us like crap. Yep. Keep drinking that Kool-Aid.
Once all these minorities realize, bro, that no matter how much you cry, no matter how much you tap dance, no matter how much you bootleg, they'll never see you in the same light as them. Let's take example for our next community we're going to discuss, the Indian community or Southeast Asian. Now, Indians living in America, dog, statistically, they are great. They make the most money, have the lowest crime rate, yet still in 2025, they face a lot of racism.
Indian racism has actually gone too far. And what if I told you it was coming from little kids elementary schools. If you guys didn't know, I worked as a part-time coding teacher where I would go to different schools, host after-school programs, and teach kids how to code. Pretty sure the students assumed I was white or Mexican because they would always talk to me in Spanish and I would not understand it. I ended up telling them that I was Indian and I was actually born in India. Their first reaction was being surprised and they said, no way. Their second reaction was going on their laptop, searching of the Indian street food and showing it to me and asking me, is this the food in your country? Mister, did you eat this when you were in India? Their third reaction was going on the internet and playing that fucking, you know the song I'm talking about, right? And for the rest of the class, I lost their focus. I couldn't get them back together because they were just messing around. Even after calling the coordinator, they kept messing around and, doing the same shit over and over.
I got hate crimed and physically assaulted last night for being Indian, and I want to talk about it. I went to dinner with my friends last night. At the table sitting next to us were two couples that were absolutely wasted when their food was delivered to them by the waiter. One of the girls knocked the food out of the waiter's hands, and words were being thrown around, which was crazy because there was not a single black person in sight. She then starts yelling at me, saying racist things about me being Indian, calling me the N-word. She walks up to me, punches me in the head twice, and then takes me by the hair, starts pulling my hair out of my scalp, holding me down. Every example of any person that looks like me fighting back flooded my brain, and I was genuinely too.
Wawa has your favorite go-tos, so why not give our clubs and paninis a go? Customize
Afraid.
No, my life.
And honestly, like, I feel bad. Like, this is a horrible assault. Nobody should be assaulted like this. But I just feel bad for her because you hear her. She's saying, like, and then they started saying all of these N-words and calling, the N-word, and there wasn't, like, a black person in sight. Okay, because she's aware that this is a name that they call black people, right? But why? So she's like, why are they calling me this name? Because anybody that has a certain level of melanin, they're going to call that name. It doesn't matter. Like, the only person that probably doesn't get called that name, even if they have a high level of melanin, might be an Asian person, and that's because they're going to look at the eyes and they're going to be like, oh, that's not a black person. But it even happens to certain Indian people, and even when it doesn't, then if they're not calling them the N-word, then they're calling them immigrants or foreigners or something. So let's watch this next clip.
Flooded my brain, and I was genuinely too afraid.
No, my live stream.
Right next to black people, Indians get the worst racism in my opinion. Most Indians have darker skin. I've seen Indians the same color as me or like even darker than me. So because anti-blackness is so global and colorism is global, the racism towards Indians is rampant. Now with this being the case, I feel like Indians and black people should be closer or tight-knit, but that's not the case.
So whether this is within the country of India, or whether this is when Indian people immigrate to any part of the world, whether it be on the African continent, in North America, South America, wherever. And again, I'm not saying every single Indian person, but I'm talking about Indian people generally. Our society, our culture, the belief systems that Indian people hold, etc. Indian people are extremely racist, especially towards black people.
So what's your name? Can I see your ID or something? You can call the police, or I can call the police. Can I see your ID? Yeah. Let me see your ID. Yeah. Can I check your ID and I'll take out my ID? Let me check out your ID and let me check out my ID. Can you get my phone? No, let's call the police. Give me a phone, let's call the police. I'm in my own neighborhood where I live at, working in my neighborhood by my house. I have this man asking me, do I live here? Yes. And what's your name? Dude, I'm going to start a civil lawsuit. That's what I'm going to do. Absolutely. You got to do it, man. But I want your name now because I'm walking in the neighborhood where I live at and I'm getting harassed. No, wait. I'm not going to be playing it.
But we need to pick up the phone.
Yes. Bring my phone. I don't have my phone. Get my phone. I do. Get my phone. Because this is your speaker, by the way. Get my phone. Get my phone. Yes. Get my phone now, please.
You see this right here? I'm gonna keep him a distance back. He's steady walking up on me like this. Y'all see this?
Yep. I know that this is not your house.
This not my house. I live in this neighborhood. You don't got it. You don't know where I live at, sir. You can't tell me where I live at, and I'm not gonna pull out my ID and show you where I live at. I know you live right here, and I live in this neighborhood. You have a blessed day, sir. You have a blessed day, sir.
I want my way you got bitch. You got me sitting here. Going to top right now. You been. You been your fake ass I don't get out of my face.
Also, as of recently, Twitter had a new update. You can now see the country that these Twitter accounts are from.
Yeah, that interaction's crazy. I'm gonna tell you right now, some of the black girls I know, that Indian lady, she wouldn't have been able to say the N-word that many times. I'm just telling you right now. I'm telling you, probably by the second one, she would have already got clocked in the jaw. But you know, it is what it is. Some of us are nicer than others. Let's just say that.
And guess what? Some of the biggest white supremacy pages were from non-white people.
MAGA is freaking out right now because Twitter, which prefers to identify as X, released this new feature in which you could actually see the country of origin of an account, and it's now being revealed that a lot of these MAGA accounts out there with hundreds of thousands of followers that have a big influence online are actually based in other countries. The way my jaw stayed in place. So I can literally go through like 1,000 of these accounts, but I'll show you just a few. Like this account, America First Verified. Well, turns out this account is based in Bangladesh. How about America Man, based in Indonesia? What about MAGA Nadine over here? Oh, it's probably some dude based in Morocco. Okay, Mary Tiles, Texas, you sure post a lot of pro-MAGA stuff online. Oh wait, you're from Russia? Interesting. Like I said, I could keep going and going. Nigeria. This is a major account that always gets Elon Musk's attention. This is based in India. This Ivanka Trump fan account based in Nigeria. This big MAGA account is based in Papua New Guinea. This one's from Serbia. Ultra MAGA Trump 2028, Nigeria. Dark MAGA Coin, Thailand. The MAGA Beacon, South Asia. MAGA Nation, Eastern Europe. Aaron Trump News, Eastern Europe.
Like these pages are really part of the propaganda of why a lot of people feel the way they feel about black people. And with me seeing these accounts from Nigeria, it's like damn, even other black people hate on black Americans.
No one, and I mean no one does anti-blackness better than a black immigrant, or like a black person from the Caribbean, or a black person from Africa, or wherever else in the world that doesn't like African Americans. No one.
It's not even funny anymore. I'm legit concerned because they be the greatest coons. Like, don't say the most out-of-pocket, outlandish stereotypes or negative thing about African Americans, and I have to think to myself, where did this come from? Who told you this information? How do you know this? And it's even crazy because sometimes you'll find people that haven't even been to America, has never encountered an African American in their lives saying these things. And it's crazy because the way they talk about African Americans, you think African Americans are the furthest demographic from them, right? Put a black immigrant that can't stand African Americans on the phone, and you'll be talking to a nationalist. Oh, they're lazy, oh, they're thieves, this is what they do, they're criminals. This is what white people say about you.
I feel like it's the media's fault. The way they portray Africa, you know what I'm saying, in teepees and huts, that's how we see Africans. And then the way they see black Americans is violence, gangs. So it's already a disconnect.
African immigrants do not view racism the same way as black Americans because we're looking at it from two completely different perspectives. Africans grew up in majority black nations, black culture, black leadership, and black everything being the norm on a day-to-day basis. It's not the core part of their identity because everyone is majority black when they look around. Black is the default. Off-rip, they are not looking at things through a racial lens. But black people in America look at everything through a racial lens because we are the minority in a country that was built off of our oppression. The entire system was designed not only to exclude us, but to capitalize off of that exclusion. So systemic oppression is the struggle that black Americans are dealing with on the home front. Struggles that people are dealing with in Africa are due to a failing.
What I've seen is that now some of the Africans, when they come here and they stay here for some time and they start to assimilate and they work, they'll say the same thing. Like they'll say, yeah, we can see some of that systemic racism, but they see it with time. Right away, they don't see it. Sometimes they just attribute us to being lazy and they'll say, yeah, you know, you guys just say white people are the problem and you can't get anything because of white people. But then the longer they stay and then the more they have interactions and they start to get that treatment, then they start to understand and they get it.
or underdeveloped system. Poverty, corruption, lack of opportunity, economic.
All right, guys, I'm going to jump to the last clip of the live stream. We're going to end the live stream with a clip from Cliff Buell tonight, YouTube content creator that focuses on Christian content. Tonight, the topic that I chose was on, I think it was somebody having to deny their faith in public. So let's take a listen.
Watch this. How do you explain the Trinity? In public, in front of these witnesses, you deny your naive faith in God.
He was pressured to denounce his faith at a young age, but listen to his response.
They put me in a chair, they stood right. He said, look, do you want a career in science? I said, yes, I do, really. I'd like one. Well, he said, if you want a career in science, in public, in front of these witnesses, you deny your naive faith in God. Because I tell you something, if you carry on with this, you will be intellectually crippled. You'll never make it. You'll suffer by comparison with your peers. So here and now, give it up in public. Talk about pressure. 19 years old, Nobel Prize winner. And I very quietly looked him straight in the eye. And I said, sir, what have you got to offer me that's better than what I've already got? In public, in front of these witnesses, you deny your...
I think that's a great. I think that's a great answer. What do you have to offer me that I don't already have? Scripture says, "What does a man have to gain if he gains the whole world and loses his soul?" Right, and it's a little bit of a paraphrase, but it matters, right? Denying your faith is a big thing publicly, and a lot of people don't understand what that's like. I remember Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell did a sermon about that, saying that some Christians, they have a sword next to their head or an axe, and they're about to be beheaded. And someone's asking them, like, do you believe in Jesus? Say you denounce Jesus Christ. And he'll say, like, do you have faith like that? We don't have to think like that in America right now because we don't deal with things like that in America right now. But it's a time that's coming. It's a time that's coming. And hopefully, we're prepared for things like that. And a lot of that, it depends on who we're listening to, what our pastors are telling us, what are we getting from Scripture, how we're talking to the Lord, and how we're discerning what he's telling us to do. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. We will be back later on for the next live stream. You guys enjoy your night. Get some sleep. I know I will. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Love yourselves, love one another, and be peaceful. Tell somebody about Jesus.